and welcome to stage 4 of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. Today the riders are setting up off from Llanidloes to Hay-on-Wye, 138 kilometres, 2,277 metres of elevation. But yesterday it was this woman, Kim LaCourt, who attacked on our final climb up to the Great Orme. She continued to look over her shoulder at who was chasing, but took a spectacular stage win. Not only that, she then went into the lead in the Tour of Britain overall. Kim LaCourt on the podium, we heard from her yesterday.
So fast into it, we almost had to break. I wasn't expecting to actually come so fast into it. We almost had to break around the corners. But yeah, it was the plan to go from the bottom, and I got a perfect lead out for my teammate Leticia. So yeah, very thankful she was here. And yeah, actually today I rode my heart for Gladys, my teammate, because she crashed out from the race, unfortunately. And yeah, it was really sad to have her out, because we came to this race together to redeem ourselves. We crashed out last year together, and yeah, she's my roommate, so I'm very sad she's not here, and today was for her.
Fantastic. And how confident are you in holding on to that Lloyds Tour of Britain jersey for the next couple of days?
Well, I think you have to never be too confident. Last year I had the leader's jersey on day 1, and day 2 I crashed out. So I think we just have to still keep our head on our shoulders and just keep doing a teamwork like we've done for the past 3 days, and keep positive and keep fighting till the end.
The riders begin today in Llanidloes, a historic market town sitting on the upper reaches of the River Severn, and often regarded as one of the gateways to the wild landscapes of mid-Wales. You can see here Kim LaCourt, our race leader, warming up on the static trainer. Even the neutral section is uphill today, but the skies are blue, the sun is shining, and AG Insurance Soudal have a big job on their hands today to try and control things for the race leader, Kim LaCourt. Here we go then, let's have a look at our stage map today. 138 kilometres, we head to the Elan Valley. That's our first categorised climb of the day, the hardest climb of the day, but topping out with 118.5 kilometres to go. We head towards Hay-on-Wye, undulating parkour before getting to those final second category climbs, which are both inside the final 35 kilometres of the stage today. No intermediate sprints, quite a tough day to predict on paper. This was a rollout from the start of the stage, and as I mentioned, it went uphill straight away, but thankfully Alice Wood, the race organiser, had given out some sweets in that neutral section. Our first attacker of the day was young Fleur Moores from the team of Lidl Trek. We know what talent Fleur Moores is, 3rd in the World Junior Road Race Championships in 2023 in Glasgow. This was a big move. She's got a buffer in the young riders classification. She started today in the lead ahead of Juliana Londonio from the team of Picnic Post NL. She extended her lead quickly. It was Lucy Lee from the Dash Hutchinson team that tried to bridge across to Fleur Moores on this first uncategorised climb of the day. The peloton pretty happy behind, although Fleur Moores did start the day in 14th on general classification, only 1 minute and 10 seconds behind the leader, Kim LaCourt. I'm Danny Rowe. Alongside me again is the wonderful Lizzie Banks. Now Lizzie, this was the start of today's stage. A really strong, brave attack from Fleur Moores, also from Lucy Lee, who tried to bridge across, but you also agreed with me that today's quite a hard one to predict.
Today's a really hard race to predict, Danny, and I wasn't sure what we were going to have after yesterday's caginess from the peloton. But we've had a taste of things that are going to come this morning already. It started with that big attack from Fleur Moores, of course. Lucy Lee trying to make the junction, but getting absorbed back into the peloton. And Fleur Moores managed to get a gap up to about 45, 47 seconds ahead of the peloton. And really, we are going to see a race where we've got some early climbs, some flatter middle sections along some A roads, and where there we might see a breakaway go ahead that potentially isn't a risk on GC, and the climbs, the categorised climbs, come back loaded today. So I think the GC action is probably going to kick off in the last 35 kilometres of the race, but we just don't know what we're going to see today. I think the teams are hungry for it.
So Fleur Moores earlier today on that attack, she started the OMODA Queen of the Mountains in the lead, constantly extending her lead slightly and actually going into second virtually on general classification. The peloton behind being marshalled by the team of AG Insurance Soudal, also Zoe Baxter, who's looking after Cecilia Ludwig. And this rider, such a talented rider, young Belgian rider, only 20 years of age, has come close to a big victory this year, second in Flanders Fields, was formerly QoM1, of course. This was 500 metres to go. Fleur Moores still in the lead here, really trying to measure her effort throughout, Lizzie. She was doing a fantastic job here to try and gain these maximal points. So it's our only first categorised climb of the day, so 10 points available as the maximum, and you can see here the damage that's being done at the back of the peloton.
Fleur Moores knew that she had to get over the top of this climb, the first categorised climb of the day at Elan Valley before the peloton, and that she was definitely going to do. She had clear road ahead of her and behind her, as we knew that there would be a fight behind for the points in that Queen of the Mountains classification, currently held by Lauren Dixon, the British rider for FDJ United Suez. Over the top for Fleur Moores and clear road on the descent.
And these roads through the Elan Valley really do offer some of the most breathtaking scenery here in the UK, but obviously for the riders, the beauty is matched by this unforgiving climbing test.
Here we go, this was the peloton behind.
FDJ Suez controlling things for Lauren Dixon. She started the day in the lead in the Queen of the Mountains competition, 27 points ahead of Caroline Anderson, but with the control and help of her teammate here, Kate Courtney, who carried on with this move over the top of the climb, it means Lauren Dixon has extended her lead to 17 points ahead, critically, of teammate Kate Courtney, who is on 19 points. So job well done there for the British rider in that competition. You can see here, Misha Bredeveld is a rider from SD Works Pro Time, just controlling things. Kim LaCourt is there too, our race leader. And Lizzie, as we've seen so far in this race, the descent's just as crucial as the uphills.
Absolutely, Misha Bredeveld came to the front and held her position. It was the Irish champion of Lara Gillespie who was at the front there, holding things for UAE. Everybody wanted to keep safe at the front on that very, very fast descent. They weren't racing it, but they were making sure that they held their position. As we take live pictures here, back to Fleur Moores, who's still out at the front.
Fleur Moores out ahead for the team of Little Trek. And as we've had already so far in this Lloyds Tour of Britain Women, we're bringing you this coverage by 5G, 4G signal, so we'll do our best to bring you the best possible pictures that we can. Unfortunately, there was a crash on that descent off the Elan Valley. We don't know exactly who was involved, but we will bring you confirmation as soon as we've got it. 97 starters today. Unfortunately, yesterday we had 6 riders that didn't finish the race. Those 6 riders, Steffi Haberlin, Ruby Oakes, Mika Docks, Matilda McGibbon, Jo Tinley and Madeline Cooper. Most critically, I guess, Lizzie, is Steffi Haberlin from Team SD Works, who, of course, also lost Lotte Kopecky on the previous day.
Yeah, SD Works had a difficult day yesterday. Lotte Kopecky didn't start at the beginning of yesterday's stage, being so critical in the first 2 stages for SD Works Pro Time. And Steffi Haberlin fell, she crashed, she hit her head. You cannot take the risks when a rider hits their head, and she didn't finish yesterday. So those were 2 of the riders that were the key sort of climbing domestiques for SD Works. So SD Works are now weakened, having just 4 riders.
SD Works weakened, Lizzie. Now the gap's at 125, and we've been talking about how unpredictable today's stage is. We can see Lorena Wiebes there, just sitting pretty in that red jersey. So she's actually second in the points classification. She's keeping that jersey warm for Kim LaCourt, who is, of course, in our race leaders jersey, in that green jersey. But there's only 1 point separating the 2 of them. There's no intermediate sprint today, so no seconds or points on offer there. 10, 6 and 4 on the line, and also points available for the points classification. But what do you think is going to happen today? That's obviously the $1 million question. But for SD Works Pro Time, are they going to try and get Lorena Wiebes to the line? Because actually, if we look at the time gaps on GC, Lorena's only 9 seconds behind Liana Lippert. So if Lorena was to win today and Liana Lippert is outside the top 3, she's actually going to bump herself up to second on GC.
I'm not sure you should be asking me what's going to happen, Danny, because I got it all wrong yesterday, but I'm the only one here, so you've got no choice. And I think we have had a taste of things to come. I think that the peloton are going to be really interested on the descent from the Elan Valley climb. Misha Bredevold was actually pushing the pace, and she had a little gap behind, and so we thought that maybe SD Works would try and protect that 3rd spot for Lorena Wiebes on just general classification, but I think that they're just going to go for it and see what they can get out of today. But I think that general classification explosion isn't going to come until much, much later in the stage. We know that Lorena Wiebes cannot win this race on bonus seconds alone. We also know that Kim LaCourte is not, she's not saying that she's won this. She knows that she has to be really, really attentive. She got the green leaders jersey by winning the 1st stage of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women last year, and she crashed out on stage 2. She crashed out alongside her teammate Gladys Verhulst-Field, who had a really, really awful set of injuries, 8 broken ribs, a pneumothorax, a broken arm, and those two came back to this race together this year to say we want to finish on a high, we want to put our demons to bed, and poor Gladys Verhulst-Field crashed out again on stage 1, breaking her collarbone. So Kim LaCourte knows that in a moment everything can be lost, and she is not going to be sitting on her laurels.
This is bike racing. It is very unpredictable, and she will not become complacent. And actually now for Fleur Moores, she has ridden herself into that virtual general classification lead here with a gap of 1 minute and 30 seconds. What crowds that we've got out here today.
We're coming through the lovely picturesque town of Rhayader. This is where the rivers come down from the Elan Valley reservoirs and head towards Birmingham. That's where the water goes from the Elan Valley reservoirs. I wonder if the Welsh people will have been happy about that. We just see one bottle getting jettisoned to the fans there, and there we go. There's an attack from Picnic Post NL. That is Giuliano Londonio from Picnic Post NL going up the right-hand side of the road. They have been so attacking this race. No response from the peloton, but that's a minute and a half gap up to Fleur Moores. That's really hard to bridge.
And this is a rider who is sat in 2nd position in that young riders classification. So young riders are any rider under the age of 23, and they then classify for the youth classification. So Lizzie, do you think that's what she's got on her mind here?
I'm not sure, because I think if she was going to try and pinch that youth classification, she would bet on Fleur Moores burning herself up in the break and actually staying in the peloton. Wow, we saw in that shot quite the gap that she'd got back to the peloton so quickly. Now, it's going to be interesting. She's going to have to make a massive, massive effort to try and get to Fleur Moores here at the front. It's going to be really, really hard. And the gap that she got back to the peloton is telling me that the peloton was sitting up. So either we're going to see here Giuliano Londonio potentially making it over to Fleur Moores, or the peloton really sitting up and that group to Fleur Moores going out even more. But look, Giuliano Londonio is just giving it some beans. She's really fired up. Whereas Fleur Moores, she's been out for a while now, about 30 kilometres. She attacked almost off the gun, and she's settled in.
Fleur Moores still away solo, but now with Giuliana Londonio trying to bridge herself across. Will she make it? Will this offer a little bit of respite for Fleur Moores, give them the opportunity to work cohesively together and do what they can to make it all the way to the line to Hay-on-Wye? Some more Welsh flags out in force today. And the county that the riders are racing through today is Powys, named after the Kingdom of Powys from the Middle Ages, actually. And it's the largest county in Wales, covering more than 5,000 kilometre squared feet. And it's located in mid-Wales, the heart of Wales, actually, stretching from the fringes of Snowdonia in the north to the Brecon Beacons in the south of the country. And it's actually been a regular host of both the men's and the women's Tour of Britain on numerous occasions since 2010, with the likes of Welshpool and Newtown, both Wales, just to name a few, all having hosted the starts or the finishes. And We're transversing the heart of Powys today, and the route combines really spectacular scenery with relentless climbing. And you can see that gap has really gone out because the peloton have just gone through Rhayader now.
Yeah, it was definitely more than a minute and a half ago that we were in Rhayader with the leader of this race, Fleur Moores. So hopefully we can get an update on that. Of course, all of these trackers are coming through GPS and we have to be a little bit careful. But she is really settled in to this.
Got some really nice live data here as well from Fleur Moores, from Bellon. Currently putting out over 200 watts, so she's just going to be trying to measure her effort here, almost in time trial mode. We've also had some really interesting data come from that first Queen of the Mountains from Zoe Backstead, who was very much at the front of the peloton, who got from bottom to top in a time of 8 minutes and 20 seconds, an average power of 330 watts on that final 2.5 kilometers of the climb. So big numbers there being put out. We've got some numbers here as well now from Juliana Londonio. So close to 300 watts. A really nice cadence, really consistent speed in that real aero position now that, Lizzie, we see a lot of riders adopting when they're out solo, and a lot of riders doing a lot of work with aerodynamics, knowing how much difference it can make.
It makes a huge difference. It makes a massive difference when you're like this out on your own. It can even make a really big difference in the sprint. This is Anna Morris here, the British rider. She was lying 10th in GC at the end of stage 2, and she lost a lot of time yesterday up the Great Orme. She's now 12:56 down on GC. She lost 12 minutes 37 on yesterday's stage. That was a tough day for her.
A tough day out for Anna Morris, but we know she has sustained a crash. So we don't know what the repercussions of that crash were, potentially having an impact on how she finished yesterday. 57th yesterday, 12 minutes and 37 seconds down. Fleur Moores looking very relaxed, very focused here for the team of Little Trek. They've got history of racing aggressively, really trying to pick up a stage victory here in the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. Fleur Moores, 20 years of age, from Belgium. One professional victory to her name in Dwars Door de Westhoek last year. In Belgium, one-day race. We know what a talent she is. Little Trek know what a talent she is. Picked her up in 2024. She signed a contract until 2027. A real classic specialist in the making. Also very, very strong in the time trial discipline, but a real gutsy rider, as we can see here today. Going out on the attack with still over 100 kilometers to go. And this is Juliana Londonio. And Lizzie, we were talking about how unpredictable this stage is going to be. We're now in an area of pretty flat land, albeit a little bit of ups and downs, but then when we get into that kind of last 70 kilometers and specifically 35 kilometers to go, there's some really tough climbs. This is Jeroen, the DS for the team of Little Trek. So now the gap is over a minute. The Little Trek car has been called up to Fleur Moores, and you can see now it's a really nice position to be in, because even though the teams and all the riders will have radios, I'm just trying to, if I can just pick up what Jeroen is saying here, but I think he will be speaking in Belgian, potentially Dutch. It's a nice chance for Fleurs to be able to have that real direct, clear communication. Also pick up, as you saw, some gels, some bars, whatever nutrition she might need. And that information just a little bit clearer than if he's behind the peloton, kilometres behind.
Yeah, she's got no need to speed up and slow down to go back to the cars for what she needs. She's got table service there at the front of the bunch, hasn't she? But it does mean, Danny, that we've said this in the last couple of days, there's only one team car in this race for each of the teams. In the World Tour races, the teams are usually allowed 2 cars, which means if you have one rider in the breakaway, you would have that team car ahead. Now we just see on the screen that it is 2 minutes 40 seconds that Fleur Moors has pulled out to that peloton, and Juliana Londonio is 1 minute 29. So it's still a tough chase for Juliana Londonio, but Fleur Moors has really settled into this effort now. She's pulled up a really, really big gap, and she's potentially going to be a satellite rider for Little Trek today.
A satellite rider perhaps, or perhaps a stage winner that could go into the lead, because if we think back to 2017 specifically, Lizzie, with Kasia Niewiadoma, she had a lead of 1 minute and 42 seconds on stage 1, but I think at one point a time gap of around 7 minutes at one point really underestimated her. Could this be a similar situation here? Because currently she is now in the virtual lead in the general classification. There's a lot of fatigue in the peloton, and all of the pressure is going to be on Adrian Shurin-Soudal to close this one down and control it. But we know yesterday Kim LaCourte was pretty isolated with only a Letizia Borghese in that front group.
That's right, you just never know what those politics are going to be like in the back. And if you don't try, you don't know. With Kasia Niewiadoma back in 2017, we had a situation where the whole peloton looked at each other and every single team shirked responsibility to chase. Everybody said, well, it's not my responsibility. Well, it's not mine either. Kasia Niewiadoma ended up getting this huge gap, and that gap was enough to win the race overall. Now, Fleur Moors, she is currently in 14th place on general classification. She's 1 minute and 10 seconds back. She's got a lot to gain. I'm curious to see how this will play out. We know that once it gets into the hard part of the race, let's say, we have the final, and then in racing terms, we often call it the final. And the final is where the race minute winning move can go, where you really need to be on the ball every single second, sharp to every single attack. And the pace will pick up in that final, maybe with around 65 kilometres to go as we get into the hilly section, but 33 kilometres to go. That is what I would call the final. We have one kicker, and then it goes straight into the 2 categorised climbs of Hengoed, and then the last climb of Cliro Hill. And the top of Cliro Hill comes with just 15.5 kilometres to go before a drop into 12 flat kilometres into Hay-on-Wye. So Fleur Moors, if she wants to win today, she's going to need a big gap, maybe 3.5 minutes, really, when you get into that final, maybe 3 minutes. It's possible. You never know. You never know. And look, Juliana Londonio here is settling into her effort, but she still can't quite see Fleur Moors, even though we're on these wide, quite straight roads.
Juliana Londonio, then the 21-year-old from Colombia, former national champion from 2025, has just been shown the blackboard with the time gap to Fleur Moors and also back to the peloton, which you can also see on the screen. So both riders just in that real time trial mode now, being wheeled on by their director sportif behind, with still over 2 hours of racing left to race. It's going to be really tough, but not out of question that these riders can make it all the way to the line. Really does depend on what happens behind. That's what we talk about when we think about what will happen in a bike race. It's generally not the parkour that determines the outcome, it's how it's raced, which means who the type of riders are that are going to make it to the line, and then how that dynamic unfolds as we get closer to the line itself.
Well, I was reflecting a little bit on that from yesterday's stage, Danny, about how it was raced and why, because I was frustrated during yesterday's stage. I was frustrated that the teams hadn't taken it to SD Works. They hadn't tried to drop Lorena Wiebes. We know she's really, really strong on the hills, but those were the kind of roads where you could have dropped her. And the teams just, they didn't try, really. I have to be honest, they didn't try. They rode up the steep sections, they just sort of tapped up it, they rode up it at a steady pace, a pace where you're not going to drop an absolutely on form Lorena Wiebes. And I guess so many of the teams looked at that final 25 kilometres before we got to Llanidloes yesterday up the OMODA Valley, and they just said, it's flat, it's a headwind, we don't want to use our riders, we don't know if we've got enough strength that are going to be there, and also we don't know if we get up in a break with SD Works, if they're actually going to cooperate. So actually, maybe, you know, of course, Kim LaCourte, Misha Bredevold, Liana Lippert, well, Movistar were the only team that were riding, really. Those teams actually said, we're confident in our climbers, we're confident that we can make that time back on Lorena Wiebes. And some of them were winners there, and some of them were losers, because, I mean, Caroline Anderson, she's now tied on time with Lorena Wiebes, 35 seconds back on general classification. Lorena Wiebes, Liana Lippert, 26 seconds back. She's only 9 seconds ahead of Lorena Wiebes, so one 10-second bonus sprint for Lorena Wiebes, and she suddenly launches herself into second place. So, yeah, I was reflecting on yesterday and kind of understood some of the team's tactics and also kind of didn't. Liana Lippert there second, and it was her team who was the only one that was really interested. But that is why I think we are going to have an attacking race today, because teams like Movistar, they can't risk taking Wiebes to the line. They haven't got a stage win. They want to hold that second position on GC. And if they want to hold it, they have to attack SD Works. And crucially, they have to drop Lorena Wiebes.
Dropping Lorena Wiebes, easier said than done out on the roads here in the UK, but today's a stage with the most elevation, so perhaps if there is a stage it can be done, it is today, with the back-ended profile in the final 35 kilometres. Not only the two second categorised climbs, but also the uncategorised climbs that could be a real decisive moment here in the race. Tomorrow's race from Leamington Spa to Leamington Spa is 123.8 kilometres, but with only 1,386 metres of elevation. We do have two second category climbs again that come in the back end, but you could argue that today is perhaps the day to be able to drop her slightly more easier than it will be tomorrow. But she is now with a limited team, having lost both Lotte Kopecky and Steffi Haviland yesterday. Lotte Kopecky woke up sick on stage 3, Steffi Haviland crashing out of yesterday's stage. Some nice live data again here from Velon, presented by Elixir, one of the partners here of British Cycling. British Cycling now the organisers of this race, having taken over from Sweet Spot in 2023. The Tour of Britain being one of the most prestigious stage races for a very long time, Lizzie. We've both had very nice memories racing here in the UK, and still now we've heard from riders after the stages as to how much they enjoy racing here, how much the crowds come out in force, and how different these roads are in the UK.
I heard one of the riders saying that this race was equal or even better to the Tour de France in terms of the crowds, and look, we see those crowds there. They've just been stopped on the side of the road and they're waving to the riders as they come past. They're going to get a triple whammy with Fleur Moores coming past, then Juliana Londoniu, and then the peloton, of course. I always find when I'm by the side of the road watching a race go, that as the peloton and the cars come past and they bring that big rush and draft of wind with it, it's so exciting. It's such an exciting feeling. This race, of course, free to view by the side of the road. And if you haven't had a chance to join us yet, please do join us in Leamington Spa tomorrow. We're going to be going up the climbs of Sunrising Hill and Burton Dasset, which I raced up in 2019. The last of those climbs coming with just 30 kilometres to the finish, which we expect to be a bunch sprint, but you never know. Oh, there we go. High-tech products fluid control just come off the front of the peloton here. Get you that number as soon as we can.
136 is the rider who is trying to go on the move. This is Stein Snorthen from the High-Tech Products Fluid Control team. It's actually not Stein. I just got that wrong there, looking at the start sheet. It's Alma Moller, who started the day 72nd on GC, 22 minutes and 39 seconds back, so absolutely no threat whatsoever for the GC. And I've actually written here on my notes, Lizzie, that this is a team also going for stages now. No one can do anything here on general classification. They've lost one rider, so this is a brilliant move here from Alma Moller.
This is a really good move, and we've seen how attacking that High-Tech Products Fluid Control have been. Oda Gissinger had that really fantastic attack on stage 2 into Blackpool, and here we go, her teammate now, Alma Moller Rasmussen, just keeping those things going and getting their team on the TV. What a race. She can see Juliana Londonio ahead.
A nice carrot for Alma Moller Rasmussen to chase then our solo leader, Fleur Moors, with 84 kilometres to go. Still very unpredictable stage that we've got on our hands today. Alma Moller Rasmussen is the rider here chasing Juliana Londonio, and ahead is Fleur Moors. Watch out, doggy.
On the lead. Well done. Well done, parents. Thank you, parents. Keep those doggies on the lead.
And just a reminder that all of the signal is being brought to you by 5G and 4G. We should have some really great pictures now throughout, all the way into Hay-on-Wye, where we finished today's stage. And some beautiful landscape here too on stage 4. You can see here Alma Moller Rasmussen really trying to attack the undulation, and it looks like she's getting closer to Juliano Londonio here, Lizzie. So a fantastic job in really committing to this move.
Yeah, as that car pulls in, it shows how close she's getting. They don't want the car to give her any extra help, but I think the fact that she's got her in her sights will give her enough help as she needs, really. And she's a really talented young rider, Alma Moller Rasmussen. She's just 19 years old. She's in her first year as a junior, and she's had so many promising results. She had 6 wins at Danish national level in 2025, and now this being her first year where she can race fully as a pro. So big things to come from her, but she just needs to try and close down that gap. We're going to head into Pennybont in a minute, and then we're going to take a left turn, and the road will start to rise a little bit. Maybe those 2 riders will be able to join up there. It's showing that we've only got 20 seconds between our leader on the road, which is Fleur Moors for Little Trek, best young rider, and these 2 chasers who are nearly together.
It looks like Juliana Londonio has potentially sat up here to me, Lizzie, just reading into her body language. Hay-on-Wye is where we're heading to today. Internationally famous market town on the Welsh-English border, and known globally as the town of books, home to dozens of bookshops and literacy businesses, and hosts the internationally renowned Hay Festival, attracting hundreds of thousands of visitors and many of the world's leading writers, thinkers and cultural figures. Here we have confirmation of the Queen of the Mountains. So Fleur Moors went over Elan Valley first to take 10 points ahead of Lauren Dixon, extending her lead in the competition ahead of her teammate Kate Courtney, Misha Bredewald, Lara Gillespie, Kim LaCourt, Caroline Svinkels, Ava Van Act, Eleonora Gasparini and Lorena Wiebes. Stage 4 from Llanidloes to Hay-on-Wye today, 138 kilometres. Now, the rider from High Tech Products Fluid Control, Alma Moller Rasmussen, is about to make it to the back wheel of Juliana Londonio, but will she go straight past? Will they work together? It seems like Juliana Londonio has sat up somewhat. I think the peloton are pretty close behind them now, Lizzie. You can see some cars being pulled through. Fleur Moors is still up the road, we believe around 2 minutes ahead of the peloton, so still in that virtual lead in the general classification. It looks like they are going to join forces here, so perhaps for Juliana Londonio, she just wanted a little bit of company.
Yeah, once you can see that rider's really close, it's worth waiting up. But look, it's been difficult for Alma Moller Rasmussen to actually get onto her wheel. She's had to make a massive effort to get up to her. So Juliana Londonio will just take a few more turns. We head back to our leader, Fleur Moors, on the front. Be interesting to see if we can pan back from those chasers to see how far the peloton is behind, whether they've got them in sight. Now, Fleur Moors is just on this road out of Pennybont. The road begins to climb, not too much difficulty, but she has got quite a few cattle grids to cross here. And I know from when I was racing that some of the peloton hate cattle grids.
A really undulating parkour for the riders today, and actually in around 7 kilometres to time, we're going to have a descent where positioning is going to be crucial. So we might see, so AG Insurance Soudal now. So this dynamic, Lizzie, has really changed in the peloton. You can see the shape of the peloton has changed, and you can see now that there are alarm bells ringing. Danny Christmas is the director sportif in the car, and she has clearly got onto the radio and said, right, now is the time we have to start controlling this gap.
Yeah, and this is really interesting because this is also happening here because we've got the change in the elevation of the road. Now the road is going to be going steadily up until 70 kilometres to go. It's around 8 kilometres of gentle climbing, which means that those riders behind, they're getting less benefit from the draft than if you're doing the work on the flat roads. We can see all of the team of AG Insurance on the front there. We've got 3 riders ahead of our race leader, Kim LeCourt, in the green jersey, and 1 rider behind, Letizia Borghese, just sweeping on her wheel to make sure that none of the other riders take that position on her wheel. Make sure that if something happens to your leader in front, you've got 1 rider who can see that and stay with that rider. And they're the ones who are, well, it's their responsibility because they do have the race lead, and they're the ones that are taking that responsibility, and that is really good to see. Heading back to Fleur Moors, getting a little bit more table service here at the front of the bike race.
Jeroen Belevens is the director sportif here in the car of Little Trek. It was actually my director sportif in my final year of racing in 2018. So with a huge amount of experience, we'll be able to direct Fleur Moors on her way here. Also with the effort that she puts out, where she invests, Lizzie, is crucial as to that time gap. Looking pretty relaxed, and you can just see here a little bit as Jeroen just told Fleur Moors that the next couple of kilometres is undulating on an upward trajectory. She'll then have a descent to be able to recover and then push again when she comes onto those uphills, Lizzie. But both of them cracking a little bit of a smile, and that's what you have to do, isn't it? Because ultimately there's still a long way to go, and she can only do what she can do, and that is measure her effort accordingly, especially now we've got this situation behind with AG Insurance Soudal with almost a complete team on the front.
Yeah, he was looking pretty happy with that situation, wasn't he? And Fleur Moors was too. She's got a decent gap of around 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Kim LeCourt, the race leader, just talking into her radio there. She'll probably be talking back to the team, or she could be giving her instructions to Marta Goossens there about what pace to ride. Just saw Alex Manley, the second rider in the bunch, flicking her elbows to indicate that they were going over those cat's eyes. There was a bit of a bump in the road, and also that they were changing sides of the roads as well. I think Kim LeCourt probably said to them, girls, stick to one side of the road. Oh, sheep on the road.
Of course we'll have sheep, it's Wales, Lizzie.
I think we're going to have a lot of sheep today.
Another cattle grid coming up as well here for Fleur Moors. But do you think AG Insurance will try and talk to any other teams? Is there any other interest? Will there be any riders who offer up assistance to AG Insurance Soudal, or is it going to be all up to them for the remainder of today's stage?
I don't think so. I don't see why any other team would take the responsibility to chase this down. And we saw yesterday that Kim LaCour only had Letizia Borghese in the end of the race. She's lost a real loyal teammate in Gladys Verhulst-Weald, crashing out on stage 1. And the riders who are in front of Kim LaCour at the moment, we don't know whether those riders will get over the climbs later in the stage, and that's why they're being used up now. We are going uphill, but it's a very, very gentle uphill. It's probably 2 or 3% just dragging up, and those powerful climbers that we've got on the front there, those are the ones that can really make the difference now and try and bring this gap down to something that's manageable, because if it's a minute, that's really manageable when everything speeds up in the peloton behind. But if it's 2.5 or 3, that's when things get tricky and you think, okay, well, Fleur Moors has got a pretty good chance of taking this to the line.
Fleur Moors with a big chance of taking today's stage here. Unfortunately, we've just had confirmation of number 103, Urani Blanco, from the team of Human Powered Health. She's had to abandon the race due to a crash. We did miss that crash off the descent of Elan Valley, and hopefully every rider that was taken out in that crash is okay and back on the bike. We believe they are, apart from Urani, who unfortunately has abandoned the race. And we saw Fleur Moors taking nutrition from the car, Lizzie, and how does the nutrition change if you're out solo? Surely with the demands that that's putting on a rider, more so than riders sat in the peloton, how do they adjust accordingly?
Well, in some ways it's actually easier, Danny. Of course, you're using more energy if you're out front. We're just going back to these two chasers here, that light blue high-tech products fluid rider, Alma Moller Rasmussen, number 136, and Juliana Londonio in the blue and orange of Picnic Post NL there. But once you're out front, you can eat whenever you want. You can choose your moments. You can take your hands off the handlebars without worrying that a rider's going to, you know, switch from one side to the other in front of you and potentially take you out. So it is actually a little bit easier. And like we said, her team car's there. She's got everything she wants whenever she wants. I think that team car is probably coming up and then maybe going back, you know, pulling over to the side, letting the peloton pass, and then going back to feed the team as well. It'll depend how many soigneurs they've got out on the side of the road and how many feeding points on the side of the road they've got. But that team car will need to feed the other 5 Little Trek riders who are back in the peloton now. We've only got another couple of kilometres, 1.52 kilometres to the end of this rise for the head of the peloton, that is. It's a little bit more for the peloton behind. And this is the slightly steeper part. We go up to around 4.5%. There's a little bit more of a rise here, but it's nothing too challenging. These riders ahead will want to do everything that they can to stay ahead of this peloton, because after this rise, we take, oh, and there we go, Alma Moller Rasmussen just accelerating ahead of Juliana Londonio and making that gap.
Now this is interesting, Lizzie. You can see the Little Trek car just pulled over on the side of the road here. So as Lizzie was mentioning earlier, there's only one race car in the Tour of Britain Women. We do normally have 2 race cars per team that can then one be behind the brake, one be behind the peloton. So for the team of Little Trek, they've now obviously decided that Fleur Moors is okay. She's got what she needs out front. They're going to go back then to be able to help the other riders behind the peloton. But for Alma Moller Rasmussen, Lizzie, with still so much racing left to come, do you think this is a wrong decision to try and go solo? Because surely that shared workload is going to be more conducive to being able to close this gap when we know the peloton's only around 20 seconds behind.
It really depends on that feeling you get from your second rider in that break, because if you feel like they're not contributing, they're slowing you down. So we just see the pace has really gone out from Juliana Londonio here. Maybe she's blown up with that effort of trying to get over to Fleur Moors. Alma Moller Rasmussen has really increased her speed, taken out that gap. She's probably been told that she needs to get ahead of this chase of the peloton. She needs to get over the top before the peloton come and to give it everything that she's got.
Picnic personnel so far have had a 3rd place on stage 1 with Josie Nelson, set up perfectly by British rider Pfeiffer Georgie. Pfeiffer Georgie has been incredibly active throughout every single stage so far. We're back to Fleur Moores here, who's been on the attack for well over 30 kilometres. The rider leading in the youth rider classification. Just getting over the top of this climb, and then she's going to have around 3 kilometres of descending in front of her. Very much on her way to Hay-on-Wye. But you can see Juliana Londonio now has been swallowed up by the peloton, as AG Insurance are on a mission to control things for Kim LaCour. A big target this race was for Kim, having won a stage only a couple of weeks ago in the Tour de France. She won stage 1 in 2025, but unfortunately crashed out. And after that performance yesterday, is clearly the strongest rider when the road goes uphill, at least. Big opportunity for the team.
Well, Juliana Londonio getting swallowed up there, and that means that Alma Moller Rasmussen isn't that far ahead of the peloton. She probably looked back, saw them over her shoulders, and thought, if I don't go now, I'm going to get absorbed. Just a couple of kilometres to go to the top of this rise here. Fleur Moores still looking really, really smooth out front, still holding that gap. She's going about the same speed as those AG Insurance Soudal riders on the front here. They're not actually taking that gap out, but they're also making sure that the gap, sorry, they're not sort of reducing that gap, but they're also making sure that that gap doesn't increase. We just see Lorena Wiebes there. She's the rider from SD Works Pro Time. She's wearing the red Sprints jersey. She's behind her teammate, the Czech national champion, Julia Kopecki, who's got that blue helmet and the white shirt with the shoulders red below and blue below that for the Czech national champion.
AG Insurance Soudal in full team time trial mode here. Ali Wollaston you can see in the New Zealand national kit in front of young rider Lauren Dixon, who had a strong finish yesterday. Lauren Dixon is now currently sat in 9th on GC, 45 seconds behind. And Kate Courtney, actually, I saw on social media last night, Lizzie saying she made a few big mistakes on yesterday's stage, albeit I've been pretty impressed because this is her first World Tour race. She's come from the mountain bike scene. She's been 2-time world champion in the mountain bike, both in cross country and marathon. She's got her sights set on the LA Olympic Games on the road. It's a hilly course, so suits her attributes as a rider. So for FDJ United Suez being, I believe, currently the best team in the world, what do they do now?
Well, I think first of all they're going to try and keep that blue Queen of the Mountains leaders jersey on their shoulders. And it's really just a huge learning opportunity for Kim LaCour, but holding that top 10 on GC and holding that blue Queen of the Mountains jersey is really going to be their main priority.
AG Insurance still controlling affairs. AG Insurance Soudal wanting to keep that green leader's jersey on the shoulders of Kim LaCour. You can see though Visma Lisa bike here coming up on the left-hand side of the screen, right-hand side of the road. They've got Femke de Vries sat in 5th on general classification, 40 seconds behind race leader Kim LaCour. They've had a 4th place as their best position for the stage, with Ninka Veenhoven on stage 2. Young British rider Imogen Wolf is in the team of Visma Lisa bikers. We're just having a nice zoom-in shot of those stem notes. That stem that riders use to make sure they know all of the critical points on the road, perhaps some technical points where they need to be well positioned. The Queen of the Mountains starts, the tops, any intermediate sprints. We don't have any out there on the roads today. Really nice to see. And generally, Lizzie, the riders will actually take full responsibility for their own stem notes.
Yeah, you can see those handwritten notes there for Fleur Moores on her stem. I always wrote my notes until one year, I think it was when I went on to EF team, I suddenly got to the start, asked for a piece of white tape to write my notes on, and I was handed a printed out list by the director sportif, and I thought, wow, this is what luxury this is. But I actually think that that isn't good. I think the process of going through the stage, looking through every key point, writing those down, it's like revision, and it helps just lodge it in your head, doesn't it? And I used to write those notes, put them on my stem, and never really look at them because I'd learnt them when I was sort of revising, as it were.
I tell you what also isn't good, when you let the mechanic do everything for the whole of your professional cycling career and then you don't have a clue how to fix a puncture or fix anything on your bike. I've definitely learned that the hard way, Lizzie. But yeah, I think perhaps for some of the riders now, they know what they're doing a little bit more with their equipment. They know the sponsors, the partners they've got from the teams, and sometimes in the winter training camps they'll have the opportunity to go to some of the factories and really learn about the sponsors that do so much for these teams now. You can see the whoop on the wrist of Fleur Moores here, collecting all of that data as well for the riders. It gives us some nice information to talk about as well.
You know what, Danny? I would bet my bottom dollar. I've already eaten my words. I've lost a packet of biscuits this week. Now I'm going to bet my bottom dollar on the fact that these riders are probably less good at bike maintenance than us, because women's cycling has progressed so much that they get what they need. Like back in the day, you had to look after your home bike. I mean, all the riders have to look after their bike that's at home. But there was so much more that we really had to do ourselves, and I don't think it's the same for those riders out there today.
Alma Moller Rasmussen from the team of High-Tech Products Fluid Control. The peloton's not far away from her, but she's still battling on to try and do everything that she can to close the gap. You can see for Alma, she's still climbing, but Adrian Sudal have been told to start controlling this gap, and it is now coming down. As we can see, Fleur Moores has hit this descent, which I talked about. You know, that climb topped out with around 71 kilometres to go, Lizzie. So an advantageous position for Fleur Moores to be in, because I think there'll also be a fight behind for positioning just for the descent itself.
Yeah, she is going to drop down into the village of Bleddfa now before taking the sharp right turn where the descent sort of, you know, becomes a little bit less steep. We can see her power. She'll be freewheeling, and then that's the power that she'll be putting out when she starts pedaling again. It's a fast descent down here, and you can see how much she's tucking in. She's such a petite rider as well, so there's not much of her facing the wind.
A non-technical descent here for Fleur Moores as she comes down towards Bleddfa and continue to head in the direction of Hay-on-Wye, which is where our finish is on today's stage. Pedaling when she can, trying to find the quickest lines through these corners.
Oh, look at that.
Absolutely flying here down this descent. Would love to see the speed, but I can predict it'll be around 80 kilometers an hour on the fastest sections, but back onto the pedals as soon as she can here, Lizzie, because she wants to try and stay away for as long as she possibly can. We've got 2 second categorized climbs that top out with 28.2 kilometers to go and 16.2 as we're getting this replay of this corner. She's railing it around this right-hand corner here. Knee out, repositions herself, gets that center of gravity back, stable on the bike, and now attacking this ascent again.
Now she's just on a little flatter section. she has got about 2 kilometres of this slightly flatter section before the road begins to go up again. Danny, you said that we've got these 2 categorised climbs in the end of the race. Well, we've got 2 uncategorised climbs coming before. In a couple of kilometres' time, she's going to hit an uncategorised climb, which is 3.5 kilometres, around 4.5% average gradient, very, very steady. And then with 57 kilometres to go, she's got another climb that's another sort of 3.5, 4 kilometres, again, also at 5%. So there's plenty of lumps and bumps to wear the riders down. And it's definitely not a simple run-in to the final. Again, between these 2 unclassified climbs and the classified climbs right at the end of the race, we've got another really steep kicker just coming in the middle of all that. There are plenty of things to keep the riders on their toes, and it's going to be hard work for that AG Insurance Soudal team to keep this gap under check. We just see Alma Moller Rasmussen going through that same corner. She wasn't going quite the same speed as Fleur Moores ahead of her, was she?
Lots of opportunity in the back end of today's stage for these climbs to be used as launch pads, to be really attacked, to try and ultimately close this gap to Fleur Moores, our solo race leader currently, especially for the team of AG Insurance Soudal, but also for teams to try and get rid of our Flying Dutchwoman, the rider that is in a league of her own when it comes to sprinting. Lorena Wiebes already having taken 2 stage victories so far here in the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. Just to give you an update on the results so far, stage 1 was taken by Lorena Wiebes ahead of Consoni and Josie Nelson. The second stage also won by Lorena Wiebes ahead of Maggie Coles-Lister and Kim LeCourt. And yesterday's stage up to the Great Orme was won by Kim LeCourt, who took the leader's jersey off the shoulders of Lorena Wiebes ahead of Liana Lippert and Caroline Anderson. So with only 2 stages left to come, it's very much still all to play for here, as Fleur Moores has just given that blackboard, given those gaps to our chasers and our peloton behind. A big learning opportunity as well for our young Belgian rider. This could be the first time she's found herself in this position, Lizzie, so even if she is to get caught today, always a chance in every single race, whether you finish and you're happy with your performance or perhaps not, a chance to learn for next time.
I mean, Fleur Moores is a talented sprinter, really, on paper, but we've seen over this season how well she can climb. She's really becoming an all-rounder with an incredibly fast kick, a bit like someone else we know at this race, Lorena Wiebes, to mention no names. And she did have a really, really good ride up the Great Orme yesterday. You know, she's 14th on GC now. She just is 1 minute 10 seconds down, and I think that's pretty impressive. Look, we go back to AG Insurance Soudal here. They are motoring on this rise, on this slightly flatter section, and there we go, Alma Moller Rasmussen in their sights. They're going to sweep her up in about 10, 9, 8. I won't count you in. Oh, there we go. She's given up now. She knows what's coming. But a good day out and a good try for Alma Moller Rasmussen, the young 19-year-old from High Tech Products Fluid Control.
Alma Moller Rasmussen there, not giving up without a fight, but a brave effort. And she's about to be swallowed up by the peloton that are being controlled by the team of AG Insurance Soudal. The team containing Letizia Borghese, Amandine Bokwene, Martha Goosens, Kim LeCourt, our race leader, Alexandra Manley, and unfortunately they've lost Gladys Verholsfield on stage 1. So the whole team here now supported, looking after, protecting that race leader's jersey. How many Welsh flags are we going to see out here today on the roads between Llanidloes and Hay-on-Wye? You can see Fleur Moore's really pushing on here with everything that she's got, actually extending her lead again to the peloton. It came down to about 1 minute and 45 seconds, but it's now gone back up again to 2 minutes. This is a recap of Fleur Moore's last 20 kilometres in the race. So this is the average power that she's held over the last 20 kilometres, 240 watts. She's had an average cadence of 93 RPM. So that's the leg speed. And the average speed that she's been riding at, 39.3 kilometres an hour. So this is really nice data that we're being given by Velon, presented by Elixir, just to give us a little bit more insight to these enormous numbers that these women are now producing, Lizzie, and I think it's just testament of the growth and the strength and depth of the whole peloton, and also perhaps why we didn't see more attacks yesterday, because that level is just so high. So many riders can hang on to a very strong average pace throughout, especially when we've got teams like AG Insurance Soudal here setting such a blistering pace on the front.
Yeah, Fleur Moores is a really petite rider. She won't weigh very much at all, so 240 watts, so that, you know, that effort in front of the peloton, that is a lot, and that's an effort that she's got to measure and know that she can possibly hold for 3 hours of racing. You know, she wants to try and take this to the finish, or as far to the finish as she can. It looks like she's dropped down 30 seconds now, just 1 minute 30 back to the peloton. And I think there will have been an increase in speed from the peloton, just as they had Alma Moller Rasmussen in their sights. That would have given them a little bit more motivation, and look, they've carried on with it. There's definitely pace going up this climb. They're on that uncategorized climb now, 3.5 kilometers at 4.5%. And then they're going to drop down into Knighton, and then there is another uncategorized climb, 3.7 kilometers at 5.1%. And as the peloton drop down into Knighton, that's actually where they're going to hit the site of the Offers Dyke. That's Lorena Wiebes there in the red jersey, just on her radio. They're going to hit the point of Offers Dyke, which is the 177-mile walking path, roughly following the border between England and Wales, from Prestatyn up in the north down to Chepstow in the south. Now, it's actually an earthworks that was built and named after the 8th century Anglo-Saxon king Offa. And it's a very popular walking route from that north to south point in Wales.
I'm loving all these Welsh facts. I've got another one for you, Lizzie, as we just watched the peloton being controlled by AG Insurance Soudal. Just a few miles from today's route, through Llanidloes, Wales, which we've just kind of skirted around, sits the National Cycle Museum, home to one of the UK's largest collections of historic bikes, and the museum holds more than 250 bikes on display and charting over 200 years of cycling history, from early hobby horses and penny farthings to modern carbon fibre racing machines.
I wonder if they've got Geraint Thomas's bike in there. I wonder if they've got the famous Danny Rose bike in there. No, Wales, I joke, but Wales is home to a lot of the world's greatest cyclists. Eleanor Barker on the track, you rode with her, of course.
In this race as well, Lizzie, let's not forget.
And then, yeah, Zoe Backstead and Eleanor Backstead, the sisters from South Wales. Two of the best British riders. There we just see Zoe Backstead. It's like she knew her. It's like she knew we were talking about her. And just to the left of her in that colourful jersey, that is her teammate Cecilia Uttrup-Ludwig. And Eleanor Backstead was just on the right-hand side of the screen there. Thank you very much to our wonderful cameraman for giving us those cameos. Absolute powerhouses of British and Welsh cycling, of course. Phoenix Premier Tech just coming round in those orange jerseys on the right-hand side of the screen. Another great couple of British riders in that team. That is Millie Cousins, we can see in the orange jersey. She's got the Union Jack on her sleeves, and her teammate Flora Perkins, the other British rider, is also in this race.
Some beautiful scenery here over Mid Wales. Fleur Moors with a gap of 1 minute and 20. That's declining though quite rapidly. Now the entire AG Insurance Soudal team have got themselves to the front of the peloton. Shepherding Kim LaCourt, trying to make sure she stays in green into tomorrow's final stage. Tomorrow's stage from Royal Leamington Spa back to Royal Leamington Spa. Nearly 1,000 metres less elevation on tomorrow's stage, with one intermediate sprint tomorrow. And I've really enjoyed this parkour. Race director Alice Wood has done a fantastic job. And here we can show you the race map ahead of tomorrow's final stage. So as I said, from Royal Leamington Spa to Royal Leamington Spa, 123.8 kilometres. Total elevation of 1,386 metres. We've got a intermediate sprint that comes with 71 kilometres to go, and then in the back end, 2 climbs that have been used before in the Tour of Britain. Sunrising Hill and Burson Dasset Hills Country Park, both second categorised climbs, coming with 40 and 30 kilometres to go respectively, with some uncategorised climbs and kickers in that back end, Lizzie. So again, quite an unpredictable stage. Definitely not a nailed-on sprint finish tomorrow.
Definitely not. Lorena Wiebes is going to want to try and take her 3rd win of this race, her 10th win at the Tour of Britain. But there are going to be a lot of teams who are going to want to try and make it so that she doesn't take that win. And those launch pads with 40 and 30 kilometres to go up Sunrising Hill and Burton Dasset Country Park are the perfect opportunity, really. It's late enough into the race that you can take that move to the line. Thankfully, the wind isn't really strong, so a breakaway could stay away. And look, that gap from Fleur Moors is really decreasing now. She's gone over the top of that uncategorised climb. She's going to descend down towards Knighton now. And unfortunately for her, there is a second uncategorised climb coming, and it looks like that may spell the end of her time at the front, but I don't know if the brake are going to quite catch her before we get to the top of that uncategorised climb. Oh, they've slowed down a little bit.
So it seems like AG Insurance Soudal are now happy with this time gap. They don't want to close it too early, Lizzie, because then obviously that then opens the race up again for riders from other teams to then counter-attack, and it makes their job harder. AG Insurance Soudal now just sat back a little bit on this uncategorised climb. The gap is now down to 1 minute and 18 seconds. So Fleur Moors is still virtually in that general classification lead, but only now by 8 seconds, because she started the day 1 minute and 10 seconds behind on GC, sat in 14th position. She's now on the descent of this uncategorised climb, Lizzie, but as I just said, they don't want to close this down too soon.
No, they don't want to close it down too soon, because once they've caught that breakaway, that opens them up to attacks. But they've only got 5 riders, Kim LaCourt, of course, being the leader. She's not going to be doing any work. And they've got to use the riders whilst they've still got those riders available. So they need to measure that effort so that it's hard enough to begin to chip into this without bringing that whole gap down, but not going too hard that they blow up their leaders before they have those riders to keep Kim LaCourt protected into the final and, you know, the final part of the race and the bit where the race is going to really blow up. So it's a real balancing act. We can see that there are 4 riders there for AG Insurance instead of the 5 riders that we've had pretty much the whole race. So I think Marta...
Those cat eyes are causing really a bit of a problem here for one of the AG Insurance Soudal riders here. You can see the cat eyes in the middle of the road here, and you can see they're quite prominent. It looks like Letizia Borghese here, just hitting one at the wrong angle, Lizzie, a couple of times. And you can see a shake of the head from Clara Caponi behind. They can be quite dangerous.
Yeah, in Belgium we've got what we call the strip of death sometimes, the little ridge down the concrete road. And here we've got really prominent cat's eyes, which can be very difficult in the bunch. you know, you use the whole road. You don't sort of split yourself normally into one side of the white line and the other, but that's what they're having to do, because if you're a rider like Borghese was, right in the middle, you're just hitting that time and time and time again. And we've seen actually that cat's eyes have sometimes caused crashes. Fleur Moors is flying down this descent. There's this really steep little section just as she comes down into the village of Knighton here. Oh, she is flying down there. I'm really, really impressed with her style, actually. She's got a super nice, super steady style on the bike. I really like it.
Fleur Moors will now descend into Knighton. She'll take a right-hand turn and then she'll start climbing again. A steep section at the bottom of this next climb. It's around 3.6 kilometres at 4%. And if the peloton have sat up slightly, it does give her the chance to try and extend her lead out a little bit more. And off the back of this climb comes a very, very fast descent. 3 kilometres, it's not technical, but positioning will be crucial. 1 minute and 25 seconds here, the gap. Peloton are hitting this descent then down into Knighton as well. They'll then take that right-hand turn that Fleur Moors has just tackled herself. You can see the peloton split between one and the other side of the road now between these cat eyes. They've had a little bit of a wobble, a bit of attention taken after that near come down from Letizia Borghese, who just hit it a couple of times at the wrong angle, but you can see it looks like the figure of Alex Manley, the Australian rider for AG Insurance, just pedalling as much as she can here on this descent. This is that right-hand turn. Oh, she's flying around this bend now and straight out of the saddle, Lizzie.
Straight out of the saddle. Did you see that pothole right in the middle of the road? The riders are going to need to be careful of that. We come into the feed zone as well, but Fleur Moors is using every single bit of speed she can to take it straight back up the hill. She needs to keep momentum. She needs to keep on going. She's got to settle in, but as you said, Danny, there's a steeper bit right at the beginning here, and if she can keep that speed over here, keep that speed high, she's got a best chance of keeping that gap. It came down to 1:30. We see this replay here. Look, she's using every inch of road.
Also on the tops of her handlebars here, Lizzie, as well. So not even on the drops where you've got a little bit of a lower position of gravity, lower centre of gravity to be able to handle the bike, but brilliantly done there now as you've got a big old lead out happening behind UAE Team Lehman alongside the team of Uno X here as we're coming into this uncategorized climb. Every single team wants to be on the front. Hold on tight now around this right-hand corner. Everyone getting through safely. Alex Manley just looking over her shoulder, just checking where her team leader is, Kim LaCourt.
Safely through that corner, that was... Oh, had my hand on my head for that one, but very pleased they've all got through there safely. And we saw the speed increase as every team wanted to be on the front. They knew that that was a tricky corner. They're not using the same pace up this climb as Fleur Moors was. She's just settled into that effort now. And look, it's Picnic Post NL who are going on the attack yet again. They've been attacking all through this race.
I believe this is Delexine Miamont. We will soon find out. Picnic Post NL earlier on the attack with Juliana Londoño, the young rider from Colombia. And they have been a team actually, Lizzie, not just today attacking, but every single day with relentless attacks. Their highest placed rider is Juliana Londoño, but she's 3 minutes and 8 seconds behind. Yes, she's second in that young riders classification, but still nearly 2 minutes behind Fleur Moors.
Look at the pace increasing in the peloton behind. We saw the green leader's jersey of Kim LaCourt just increasing the pace behind one of the SD Works riders, and it looks like it's Uno X trying to shut it down. That is Delexine Miamont from Picnic Post NL there.
This is Katrin Allerud on the front for Uno X Mobility. She's another rider that's been very aggressive, and you can see a few of the riders just turning right over to their swan years on the side of the road there, always using these small inclines to feed their riders. Misha Bredeveld, though, for SD Worx Pro Time, glued onto the back wheel of Katrin Allerud here, because she's going to be trying to look after Lorena Wiebes. I think that she has got a big opportunity to make it today into Hay-on-Wye. Fleur Moores now is about to just go under that 1 minute in terms of that gap that she's holding to the peloton on now this second uncategorized climb that come in quick succession of each other. Dilexine Miermont seems to have maybe given up slightly, just looking around her shoulder to see what's happening behind. AG Insurance Sudal now not on the front, talking into the radio. But we could have some 1-2 in here, Lizzie, and this generally is what happens when you get one rider going off the front. It's about trying to snap that elastic, but now the presence of AG Insurance Sudal has completely gone off the front here. So I think now with that gap being shown at only 48 seconds, they're happy now to sit back and try and recover. A lot of riders really struggling too.
The presence of the AG Insurance teammates have gone, but I can see Kim LaCour on the radio, and Kim LaCour is being very, very attentive. When there was that acceleration from Katrin Allerud, Kim LaCour was in 3rd place, and now she is just second in the peloton. She's just sitting on the shoulder of one of the SD Worx riders, so she's holding that position at the front of the peloton without having to be on the first line. You want to be at the front without being on the front. We've got about 2 kilometers of climbing here, around 4.5–5% average gradient until we get to the top. Then we're going to drop down. It's yet another fast descent down through Norton and into the valley before a flatter section before we head right into the final. So the pace seems to be high, but not chasing really, really hard here. Fleur Moores will look to stabilise that gap that's down to under a minute now, 48 seconds. But thankfully for her, the peloton cannot see her, so she has the chance to try and get over this rise, because that's going to be key, really. She doesn't want to get caught before the top of this climb, because if she does, she would get spat out the back and she wouldn't be able to cling on.
Fleur Moores in the smallest gear that she can possibly get here on her bike. You can see there, as we're getting some really nice live data from Dilexine Miermont. So many opportunities between now and the end of the race for teams, for individual riders to attack on. Also, another significant area on this route, Lizzie, is one that I've looked at as to a very, very steep uncategorized climb that comes with 43.6 kilometers to go, actually, and it's around 1.2 kilometers, but over 8%. And Dilexine Miermont suffered an awful training crash, resulted in fractured elbow, pelvis, cervical vertebrae fractures in her neck in April. She hasn't raced since March, so a really brave effort here as well from Dilexine Miermont, the rider from Team Picnic Post-NL that's gone on the attack. What does Fleur Moores do here, Lizzie? Because she'll know in her radio that the time gap is coming down quickly. Does she sit up in trying to protect this white jersey that she's got on her shoulders, or does she just carry on with this effort?
No, absolutely not. Really, her goal is the top of this climb, coming in about 700 meters to 1 kilometer. She's got to get over the top of this climb ahead of that peloton, and if she does, then I would say the team would probably assess what the gap is in the valley. Like you were saying, Danny, we've got a nasty little kicker coming with about 43 kilometers to go. It's only 1 kilometer long, but it is around 8%. And if the gap there is, you know, heading in towards that is only 20 seconds, then at that point, Fleur Moores will want to probably ease up and make sure that she can take a little bit of rest, so that when the peloton catches her, she can try and stay in touch with them. But I think get over the top of this climb, get down that descent safely ahead of the peloton, take your own lines. We have got, you know, it is a little bit tricky coming down that descent as we head towards Prestine. There are a couple of steep sections. And she just needs to stay ahead of the peloton for the rest, you know, for the longest time she can. And when we're in that flatter valley section out of Prestine, reassess, see what the time gap is, see what the intention is in the peloton behind, and see if she can get over that kicker before we head into that final with 33 kilometers to go. Oh look, peloton slowed down. Now she's definitely going to be told to give it some beans and really, really make the most of this opportunity to take more time back on the peloton, because nobody's interested. Kim LeCourt there is looking around, wondering, oh, there she just sees her teammate, Marta Goossens. Or nope, that's Amandine Fouquenet, I think. And we can see Alex Manley trying to come up on the right-hand side of the screen in those blue and green helmets. She's got that very long ponytail. She's a very loyal domestique. She's just coming round the edge, coming into the centre of the road, and she's going to come to the head of the bunch and try and set the pace for her leader, Kim LeCourt.
So the pace just coming out of the peloton somewhat here. Team Picnic personnel have come to the front on the left-hand side of the road. But Alex Manley, the Australian rider, is the rider that's been communicated to from the team of AG Insurance Soudal to try and do everything that she can. The chances are is that she'll be dropped in the back end of the stage. And Lorena Wiebes now as well coming to the front. We've seen how good she's been in offering up herself that sliding room on all of the climbs, but also holding her own, because on stage one we had a very select group. We've got an attack here though, an attack by Alessia Vigilia from the team of the Uno X Mobility team. On her wheel is Soraya Paladin, and Femke Henitzer controlling things for SD Works Pro time and time again. Looking after the interests of Lorena Wiebes as Alessia Vigilia is just looking over her shoulder to see if there are any gaps that have been established, but not for now. Will any cracks emerge though, Lizzie? Because this looks like a very committed move here.
Ideally, she would have a teammate just behind who would be able to counter this attack, because it hasn't got away. She's just dragging the peloton here, but I can see that the nearest Uno X rider, mobility rider, is really quite far down the peloton, and they're not going to be able to attack off of this. So she needs to slow down, let one of her teammates come up and try and take a counter-attack. And there we see the counter-attack from Liv Alula Jaco in those purple jerseys and helmets on the left-hand side of the road. Kim LeCourt, though, so attentive. She's straight on it. She's not letting anything get up the road.
Kim LeCourt controlling things for herself here as the pace is really ignited after a couple of attacks and counter-attacks and moves on the road here with only 52.2 kilometers to go. Where's the next move going to come from? You can see Kim LeCourt. She's on the radio. She's asking, where are you? Where are my teammates? They're coming.
And that's the thing, as soon as we saw that slowdown from Alessia Vigilia, and we're going to see another attack from Uno X here on the left-hand side. I think that's Katrin Ullerin again. Yes, it is. They really want to get up the road. As soon as you lose those teammates with that ability to hold that pace, and that pace lifts, it opens up the opportunity for attacks. We saw that as Alessia Vigilia slowed down, Liv Alula Jaco attacked.
But Katrin Ullerin doing the right thing, because she looked over her shoulder, and as soon as she realised that that gap hadn't been established, she's come off the power. She's given her the opportunity to recover, to be able to then go again. Fleur Moore's still in that aerodynamic position. Fleur Moore's the European road race, junior road race champion from 2023. In the Netherlands, she took that title, one of the biggest emerging talents that we've got on the scene, and that gap, 1 minute and 45 seconds now we're being shown. So if that's correct, she's really extended the lead. Not great road surface then, but we've seen so far with the way that Fleur Moores is riding that she is happy on her bike. 85 kilometers an hour. She is flying down here, but Lizzie behind, there's going to be a big fight for this, because this is really important.
This is really important. You can see she's just coming there into the village of Norton. There is this sweeping left and right-hand bend. And for Fleur Moores, she's got the whole road ahead of her. She can do whatever she wants. But that pace went out of the peloton, the gap extended, and actually, as the peloton came over the crest of that climb, it's going to have increased again. Everybody's going to want to take the front positions here. We've gone from a really, really quite wide for the UK road down to this narrow road as we come through that turn, and that is a real pinch point that the riders need to be aware of coming into this village of Norton. And that there we're on the back with Picnic Post NL rider Delixine Meermont, who's just 30 seconds ahead of the peloton.
Geheritzer just flicking her elbow, just letting the peloton know behind that she was going to change her position. Perhaps a little bit of an uneven road surface. We're here with Delixine Meermont, who, like Fleur Moores, is attacking every single ascent that she can. Fleur Moores really back in her rhythm here. She's just descended down into Norton. She's heading
towards Prestine now, where she's going to take a right turn onto some flatter roads, but it's about a kilometre until she gets there. I think the peloton are probably heading through the village of Norton now, or just about to.
That right-hand turn coming with 48.4 kilometres to go. So Fleur Moores will be there momentarily. And for Delixine Meermont, around a minute behind Fleur Moores, 28 back to the peloton. She still looks like she's putting in a huge amount of power here though, Lizzie. We do really try and read into the body language of riders, but she's looking solid out here on the roads today.
She looks like she's trying a bit harder than before, but that is no surprise because she's been out since almost kilometre zero. That's nearly 70, I think that's over 70 kilometres that she's been away now. That is a really, really good ride. It's been a fast ride. She's had a very, very high average speed. It's been just under 36 kilometres an hour average speed so far. And don't let that fool you, it's been very, very hilly out here today. Of course, heading into the Elan Valley for the first classified climb of the day, where Fleur Moores won that ahead of Lauren Dixon, who's wearing that Queen of the Mountains blue jersey today. Delixine Meermont putting a few more seconds into the peloton actually. It's saying that she's got 40 seconds now, which is interesting. Peloton will start to think about what's coming up.
You can see Delixine Meermont, Lizzie, always with the fingers on the brakes. It's quite a natural position for all professional cyclists to adopt, always having the ability to quickly react if need be.
Yeah, it's amazing the reaction speed, isn't it? When something does happen, or, you know, you see a little pothole or something on the road that you weren't expecting, the reaction is just without even thinking, and here we go, Uno X going again. But what we really need to see here, Danny, is we need to see her teammates just to the side. We can just see one of her teammates coming up on the right-hand side of the bunch. We need someone else to be there so that if she gets reabsorbed, they can go immediately as soon as that pace drops. But seem to be letting it go. It's Lively Jaco who are looking to maybe make a counter-attack.
This is Alessia Virgilia again. 26-year-old Italian rider. No threat on GC, started the day 61st, 16 minutes and 56 seconds down. Delixine Meermont is this rider for Picnic Post NL, number 125. And then still Fleur Moores out ahead, currently with a lead of 1 minute and 20 seconds, so still in virtual GC classification lead. Fleur Moores heading into the final 45 kilometres of the race. She's been out ahead solo from over 100 kilometres to go. Can she hold off the peloton behind? We've had AG Insurance Soudal controlling things on behalf of Kim LaCour. Delixine Meermont is this rider behind, just chasing 38 seconds behind, and we've had some attacks as well from the team of Uno X Mobility, from the likes of Alessia Virgilia, also Katrin Ellerud. as riders now are starting to feel that fatigue, and we're getting closer to some pretty significant uncategorized climbs, and knowing how well Danny Christmas is meticulous in the way that she approaches these races. As the Director Sportif for AG Insurance Udal, they will know exactly what is coming on the road. So don't be surprised if we see the whole of the team on the front in the next couple of kilometres again. The confirmation of our chaser, Alessia Vigilia here. We're heading down now towards Beggars Bush. Beggars Bush is where that steep climb comes. Around 43 kilometres to go. Heading down towards then Old Radnor, as we then go through Newchurch, Cliro, where our Queen of the Mountain is. To Queen of the Mountains, our first up Hengoed, 2.7 kilometres, an average of 5.2%, and then the second one, Cliro Hill, 2.2 kilometres at 4.2%. The second climb topping out with 16.2 kilometres to go. Alessia Vigilia now has Dilixine Miamont pretty much in her sights, well, she did before she took that sweeping left-hand bend, and Dilixine Miamont looking very relaxed, I must say, Lizzie.
Well, she's a super talented young rider. She's 26 years old, and she had a huge number of top 10s last year. She also won the GP Presidente before she had this awful training crash in April, giving her a fractured elbow, pelvis and cervical vertebra. It's really great to see her back racing. She hasn't actually raced since March, and this is a really good effort to get 40 seconds ahead of the peloton now. Massive effort from Alessia Vigilia as well, because she's had to bridge those 40 seconds. She hasn't quite made the catch. Perhaps we'll see in a moment quite how far back she is, but she looks to be about 10 seconds behind Dilixine Miamont, who's really doing a solid effort here, trying to get Fleur Moors in her sights. Not quite managing it yet.
Blackboard said 1 minute and 10 seconds was the gap between Fleur Moors and the peloton behind. With the chasers here, Dilixine Miamont, Alessia Vigilia not far behind. It looks like we're going to just get sights of where she is there. So a really nice carrot here for Alessia Vigilia, who will just be able to profit slightly off that motorbike that's in between herself and Dilixine Miamont here for the team at Picnic Post NL. So also for these three teams out front, Lizzie, they're in a nice position where in that peloton behind they can just follow. There's no responsibility for these teams to have to do anything on the front of the peloton behind. The catch is about to be made, so Alessia Vigilia now has bridged the gap over to Dilixine Miamont, and that was a really well-timed attack and very efficient in the way that she's come across very quickly indeed.
Yeah, that was a really good tack. And normally you'd take a moment to sit on the wheel and have a rest, but look how strong she is. She's going straight to the front. She wants to keep this brake moving. In just, about 1.5 kilometres, 2 kilometres time, they're going to hit this unclassified climb, 1 kilometre, but 8%. So they need the buffer, the gap. They can actually see, there we go, they can just see Fleur Moors ahead of the cars. There's 2 motorbikes and then 2 cars up front, and they will have got a glimpse of her, and that's going to really, really motivate them to close that gap. It's 30 seconds. That's a huge gap that Alessia Vigilia has just jumped from the peloton. 40 seconds is trying to close that next gap of 30. Bit of pace gone out of the peloton here now, as they're just thinking about that non-categorized but steep climb coming up.
Very steep climb coming up for all of the riders here racing in stage 4 of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. These 2 riders, Dilixine Miamont and Alessia Vigilia. Alessia Vigilia with 2 professional victories to her name, both back in 2023 with the UMAG Trophy Ladies race, a 1.2 race, and then the Giro Toscana 2.2 stage race. She won on the final day. And if I remember rightly, Lizzie, she was a rider in the Tour Down Under who had a very, very long solo attack. So it seems like Uno X love a solo attack. Obviously, Sigrid Hauser winning the stage in the Tour de France Femme, and I have just had confirmation that that was a 100-kilometre breakaway, and she was caught with only 300 metres to go.
Oh, that is brutal. That is really, really brutal. I mean, she's clearly got the talent, and she's clearly got a really, really big engine, because you can't do those 100-kilometre breakaways unless you're a really, really strong rider. I mean, we saw her strength. She jumped out of that peloton when they were motoring, and she closed down 30-40 seconds to Lixine Meermont in front. The pace has just picked up a little bit here. They're going to come towards that uncategorised climb, and they're going to take a left. But of course, we're going to see Fleur Moors doing that first. Fleur Moors, of course, quite a way up the road ahead of them, a minute and a half ahead of the peloton. Fleur Moors is just going to come up to see that blackboard in front of her. That was one of the funny things about blackboards when I was racing. They would hold it up, but they would hold it up just far enough away that you couldn't actually read what it said, which was really, really quite annoying. And look, those two chasers, they've got Fleur Moors in her sight. What a chase from those two.
A huge chase from Lixine Meermont and Alessia Vigilia. They've just pulled the neutral service cars out of the gap between Fleur Moors and these two chasers. Now, this is going to give Fleur Moors a little bit more reinforcement. Now we've got 3 riders out front to be able to share that workload, Lizzie, and only around an hour of racing left to come. This could be a dangerous breakaway, albeit Fleur Moors has obviously been out for a very long period of time.
She's going to have the reinforcements that she really needs at this point, because, you know, she's just going to get that little bit of respite as the riders will roll through. The important thing here, Danny, is that they all seem really, really motivated. Just 10 seconds now. These riders behind, Lixine Meermont from Picnic Personnel in that blue and orange jersey, and Alessia Vigilia from Uno X, they're going to be pushing really hard to try and catch her just at the head of this rise. And if they make that junction, which it looks like they're going to any minute, it's going to make all of their lives easier. They need to have a little bit of rest before heading into this uncharacterized climb. But luckily for them, there's not a lot of pace in the peloton, and that is really, really good news to give them a chance to stay ahead of the peloton in this spicy uncategorized climb we've got coming up. I know I keep mentioning it, but it's really worth mentioning it because it's a potential launch pad.
Potential launch pad coming before our 2 categorised climbs of the day, and I'm just having a look through the Queen of the Mountains competition. Both Fleur Moors and Lixine Meermont have 3 points. So with 12 points on offer, that would put both of those riders at 15 points if they manage to take maximal points on both of those climbs. So that would put them into second behind Lauren Dixon, albeit she has extended her lead earlier on today. So again, would still put them in a fight with still tomorrow's stage left to come. But I think, Lizzie, this is more than just fight for Queen of the Mountains points, and perhaps that's not even in their sights. This is all about a stage victory.
Yeah, look, Alessia Vigilia just struggling a little bit on those steeper slopes of this unclassified climb here, trying to fight to stay back on as she gets over the hill. But yeah, I mean, the huge goal here for Little Trek and Fleur Moors would be the stage win. If she could move up on GC, that would be a bonus, but she has been out here for a really, really long time. It hugely depends what happens behind. If she can end up putting herself in a position to take the Queen of the Mountains jersey, that would be great. But I've got a feeling that Lauren Dixon and FDJ Suez might have that under control. Let's see. Because the final categorised climb of today's race is very late in the stage, just 15.5 kilometres to go, and we hit the top of that one. That's Clyro Hill. Shirin Van Anrooy in the middle of the peloton. That's Fleur Moors' teammate. That red helmet, she's just gritting her teeth on this uncategorised but steep climb that I was mentioning.
Alice Towers, former National Road Race champion from 2022, on the right-hand side of the road, left-hand side of the screen with the pink helmet and pink bike. Professional team is EF Education Oatly, but rode aggressively on yesterday's stage. Unfortunately for the Great Britain national team, they're down to 3 riders, having lost Jessica Roberts, Ruby Oakes and Rebecca Garnier. Anna Morris lost time yesterday, so another team perhaps now with the ambition of stage wins rather than trying to move up in the general classification. But for now, these 3 riders, Fleur Moore, Dilixine Miamont and Alessia Vigilia, have joined forces, and Fleur Moore's seems to be the happiest on this descent. Alessia Vigilia now with the ability to just recover somewhat, because she did look to be the weakest of the 3 on the climb, albeit she had a big chase on her hands and closed the gap to Dilixine Miamont incredibly quickly. You can see Age Insurance Soudal, the riders are just starting to grimace now, Lizzie. So along with the accumulative fatigue from the stages, they've also been controlling for probably the last 40 kilometres or so, since Fleur Moore's extended that gap to over 2 minutes at one stage.
Fleur Moore's is getting a little bit of help now from Alessia Vigilia. Just came through to the front, went a little bit too hard as she was coming through and put a little bit of a gap back to Fleur Moore's. Canyon SRAM look like they're prepared to help with the chase as well now, which is good, because AG Insurance can't keep this up for the whole race, but they do want to control it. They'll be wanting to try and win that stage with Kim LaCour, I think. She was in such good form yesterday. She absolutely exploded up the Great Orme. I think that they're going to put their faith in her to try and make a move with 33 kilometres to go and try and hold that in a small group, ideally until the finish, having faith that she will be able to take the win in a small group. Just a nice sweeping right here with that lovely old building there.
Dilixine Miamont leading this leading trio of riders through the twists and turns, this descent, as we head towards Hay-on-Wye, which is where our finish is today. Dilixine Miamont just flicking the elbow, signaling to Alessia Vigilia now to come through. So they are very much here in team time trial mode, the most efficient way for them to get to the finish line as quickly as they possibly can. And at what stage, Lizzie, does it start to become a case of eyeing each other up in the break? For now, they're just teammates, but if they get closer to the line, they're going to have to try and think about how they best win as individuals.
I think that would really be pretty far into the race, really. I think if they manage to get to those final categorised climbs together, starting with, well, the beginning of the Hengoed climb starts at 30 kilometres to go. We've got an uncategorised steeper climb with 33 kilometres to go. And if we get to those climbs and you feel like one of your breakaway companions just can't really contribute, that's the point where you've got to say bye-bye and then you ride off, because you want to work with these people for as long as you can. But if you think someone is dragging you down, then that's when you've got to say goodbye. And we just saw a rider doing a little bit of cyclocross on the verge on the left-hand side of the screen there. Stayed upright, thankfully, but it caused a little bit of a fracture in the bunch.
We have had a fracture in the peloton behind then on this descent. Kim LaCour is safe. It's almost in 2 groups now, though, the peloton. Lorena Wiebes is also safe. You can see her nicely tucked in. We're just going to get a replay here of what happened. There was a crash. It was a Phoenix Premier Tech rider in the red that came down on that left-hand side, and you can see then a couple of the riders forced out wide, had to take to the grass. A couple of parked cars, unfortunately, here on the course, but race organisers have done a great job in being able to signal to the riders that they're there. Next climb that we've got is that uncategorised climb at 33.5 kilometres to go, but then we start the categorised climb of the day at 30.8 kilometres to go. Just looking at the wind, very, very light winds today, around 4 kilometres an hour. The riders currently riding into a cross tailwind, and then they'll take that left-hand turn on our second categorised climb of the day. They'll then have a tailwind for a short amount of time, back into a crosswind, and then a hairpin turn that comes with around 5.5 kilometres to go before heading straight towards Hay-on-Wye with a crosswind from their left-hand shoulders. But again, only 4 kilometres an hour, so the wind not having an influence on the race today. Feeding time for Fleur Moores as she reaches into her back pocket to take a gel. These 3 riders now on a mission to get to Hay-on-Wye ahead of the peloton. Now we've had some culinary delights from Lizzie Banks throughout, and she seems to have more for us today.
Well, we're just 2 kilometres away from the official feed zone. We saw the breakaway taking their snacks just now, and we've been talking a little bit about stews. We talked about the Lancashire hot pot on stage 2, and then we talked about lobscouse yesterday, the dish that gave its name to the people and the accents of Liverpool. But now we're in the heart of mid-Wales, and the stew of choice here is the famous Welsh dish of cawl. This is a much lighter stew, which is set in a light broth rather than the usual gravy that we see across other parts of the UK. And cawl is usually made with lamb or mutton, plentiful in Wales, of course. We've seen a lot of sheep on the course. And usually it's made with leeks and potatoes. We see 120 there on the blackboard. And so I wonder if the riders will be having cawl on the menu in their hotels today. It is a really, really nice, hearty Welsh dish. And if you are visiting this beautiful area of mid-Wales, I really suggest getting yourself down to one of the local pubs and seeing if you can find a dish, because it's often on the menus in local pubs. It's a very, very well-known dish throughout Wales, really.
Zoe Baxter then leading the peloton through that left-hand corner. And you talk about whether the riders would have it on their menus, Lizzie, but a lot of the teams now actually travel with a chef. So their meals are very much dictated to, I guess, the nutritional value and those micronutrients and macronutrients with the amount of carbs, fats, proteins that the riders need to be able to fuel themselves properly for whatever the demands the next day has in store for them. So probably not is the answer.
Well, I don't know, it's pretty hearty stew. You've got a lot of potatoes in there, which are very, very good carbs, and maybe you'd want a meal that's slightly lighter in fat than a fatty broth. What's interesting, I think, Danny, with having, you know, nutritionists and chefs and everything now, is that some teams will have a food truck, some teams will have a chef that will go into the kitchen of the hotel and will kind of take over. And you'll often see the riders taking their plates up to a scale and weighing their food. And from the outside, you might think that's so that they don't eat too much, but it's actually the complete opposite. It's actually so that they can get enough carbohydrate in. And in races, tours like this, 5 days even, or of course long races like the Tour de France, the Giro, the Vuelta, you really have to make sure that you get those carbohydrates in every single day. Oh, the rider's nearly missing that turn there.
Dilixine Miamon just losing a few bike lengths around that tricky off-camber right-hand turn. So that's something that the peloton are going to have to navigate momentarily. With 36.1 kilometres to go, we've got that crucial uncategorised climb that Lizzie's been talking about. And then we'll head into our first categorised climb of the day to Hengoed. You can see the peloton behind now really getting lined up in that sort of lead-out formation as we approach these, what could be critical climbs in the final 40 kilometres of today's stage. Our trio still holding it around 1 minute and 25 seconds ahead. Now that looks like a comfy spot to watch the bike race. Catching a few pictures and videos as these world-class riders just ride through on these roads heading towards Hay-on-Wye. Liverlula Jaco, that looks like Georgia Baker just getting into that real aero tuck position. Unfortunately, we had a crash just before with a rider from Fenix Premier Tech. We haven't had confirmation as to who that was just yet. We know that Urani Blanco has had to abandon as the peloton there just tackle that uncambered corner, and riders at the front wanted to hold their position, so as they come round that corner, just getting out the saddle straight away to hold that position that they've worked so hard to get to. But it is very much a Canyon SRAM, Liverlula Jaco affair currently, as you can see Lorena Wiebes just talking into her radio. She had Julia Kopechki at the front, making sure nothing gets away, because I think currently, Lizzie, Lorena Wiebes will feel and believe that she can make it over these last few climbs.
She's definitely going to try. She's third on GC at the moment, and if she can hold that place, she's going to want to hold it, because her teammate Misha Bredevold, who we thought was going to be their leader, and I'm sure was, but actually, look, we can see where the wildfires have hit on those lovely Welsh hills. It's been so dry in the UK, as we know, but the firefighters have been doing such a good job to control it. So many volunteer firefighters in this area, which has such an amazing community in mid-Wales. But Misha Bredevold, we thought she was going to be their GC leader, and although I think she is, and we may see Lorena Wiebes get dropped and Misha Bredevold go up the road, but if Lorena Wiebes can hold that third place on GC, being on that final podium is really, really important for teams. But we know for SD Works, they almost don't care unless it's a win. So I think a really, really big thing for them today is going to be, can they get the stage victory? Kim LaCour is a great sprinter, but Misha Bredevold is too. She's won Plouay 3 times in a row, the World Tour race that often ends in bunch sprints, and she's won each one of those from a bunch sprint after a hilly course. So she isn't to be underestimated in a finish like that. Although Kim LaCour does have a turn of speed, so does Misha Bredevold.
Alex Manley has spent a huge amount of today's stage on the front, trying to keep Kim LaCour out of the wind, but also making sure that for the team they've got numbers to play with in the final if and when things do erupt. Julia Kopechki is the rider that we're seeing on the front here for SD Works Pro Time. Some live data for Alex Manley. Over 200 watts, just sitting comfortably. She knows what she can sustain, and that's what she's trying to do here. And Zoe Backstead doing a similar job for Cecilia Triple-Ludwig, or perhaps today for Chiara Consoni, because she's also shown in the last couple of days that she's got great form off the back of the Tour de France fan. She had a pretty hard crash on one of the stages in the back end of the Tour de France, but obviously recovered well from it. Soraya Paladin now again towards the back. Lizzie, we saw her at the back a lot of the day yesterday, but did come to the front in the final 10 kilometres. Zoe Backstead flicking her elbow, obviously something here to try and avoid. As you can see, riders behind just doing the same thing, almost relaying that message back to her teammates. Also in the radio,
I wonder if she's saying, guys, I've been on the front for 30 kilometres here, I'm going to need some help. They've got 4 Canyon SRAM riders in a row on that left-hand side of your screen. That's Zoe Backstead in British National Championships jersey, followed by Wilma Antila with Chiara Consoni on her wheel. And there we go, winding things up now. This is the uncategorised climb before we get into those categorised climbs of Hengoed and Cliro Hill. It's not going full gas here, they're just winding things up.
There's a big opportunity now for teams to use these climbs to try and split this bunch apart, to try and get rid of Lorena Wiebes. You just saw Zoe Backstead shaking the head. Her job is done for the team, and a phenomenal one at that, as riders are now struggling under this pressure. These teams know just how important these climbs are. We're heading towards our first categorised climb of the day, but this one, 1.4 kilometres at around 4.3%. This is the climb that these 3 riders are on currently. Our trio, our leaders in Fleur Moores, Alessia Vigilia and Dilixine Miamont. Just a consistent pace here though so far, Lizzie. We did perhaps expect something to happen, but for now it's just that consistent injection of pace. As we can see, a couple of the riders just struggling. This is Maddie Leach track rider in the UK, Hansling Alba development team rider with the DS of Anna Shackley, and another rider from the Liv Alula Jayco team there as well, just struggling.
Yeah, that was Amber Pate just coming off the back, coming back from her first race back since her surgery to remove a malignant tumour on her pancreas.
Just sitting in a little bit of a low coverage area, so we'll get back to the racing as soon as we possibly can, but we can now enjoy some beautiful scenic views.
Scenic views indeed, Danny. It seems like they weren't going to use that little uncategorised climb to attack, but what they were doing was just winding things up, making that pace high, stringing the bunch out. As we go back to the front here, Fleur Moore's just taking that all-important bottle from her Swanee on the side of the road, back into the line behind Dilixine Meermont. They're just coming to the top of this climb, it looks like. They're just under Common Wood here. And then after this, there's going to be a super fast descent. So that's what the peloton are doing here. They are just stringing things out, I think. We're going to have a super fast descent. We've got a tight right-hander, and then we are straight across the bridge and straight into the categorised climb of Hengoed. I've got on my notes that they need to attack in the first 1.5 kilometres of the Hengoed climb if they're going to do it. Fleur Moore's whacking out 307 watts there. That's a lot of power for a petite rider. I'm so impressed. She's been out there all day. Most of the time she's been alone. What a ride.
Shirin Van Amroy just signalling that she wants to get over to her Sonia. She wants a bottle. Job well done. You can see the gel strapped to the bottle as well, but a few of the riders will take the gel, a few of the riders will just flick it off, get rid of what they don't need, and it's Premier Tech to come into the front.
Looks like Marta Troyan to me.
And now we've got control here from the FDJ Suez team. Leah Carignet on the front, ahead of Ali Wollaston, and then just tucked behind Ali Wollaston was Lauren Dixon. Now, she took 9 points on the first Queen of the Mountains to extend her lead in the Queen of the Mountains competition. So now the gap to her own teammate, Kate Courtney, 17 points. So this is a second categorised climb here, up to Hengoed. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1 points available. Lauren Dixon with a big target of holding on to that. A rider that was picked up last year by the team of FDJ Suez, former runner. You can see both Backstead sisters here in this little group of 5, just off the back of the group. And now these 3 have just split up a little bit. The OMODA Queen of the Mountains begins up to Hengoed, 2.7 kilometres, 5.2% average, tops out with 28.2 kilometres to go. It's a straight climb. Steep sections coming within the first kilometre of the climb, so if anyone wants to make a move, perhaps that's the best chance to do more damage. Just the blackboard again giving us what we're being shown on our screen, 1 minute and 5 seconds. But for now, our 3 leaders happy to stay together, because when the gradients aren't as steep, Lizzie, you're still profiting off that wheel in front of you.
That's right, and there's a little bit that's less steep at the beginning, and then we're going to kick up into one of the worst sections of this climb. Like all the climbs in Wales, it's so inconsistent after we get over that first 1.5 kilometres, with the pace really increased in the bunch. Leah Carignet just pulled off, as it's Ali Wollaston who takes us through that QoM start with Lauren Dixon on her wheel.
Lizzie, the fact that they're going for it at the bottom of this climb says to me this is not just about the Queen of the Mountains points, because if it was the case, they'd wait. This now for FDJ United Sue is about attacking this race, trying to come back. Kate Courtney was disappointed with how she rode yesterday, making some mistakes, and you can see it's Ali Wollaston leading out British rider Lauren Dixon, and on her wheel is the rider in the United States of America Stars and Stripes jersey, Kate Courtney. They mean business.
They had a perfect lead into the bottom of this climb. Leia Carinia gave it everything. And now Ali Wollaston, the sprinter for FDJ United Stewards. Look, she is actually gapping her team leader, Lauren Dixon, in the blue Queen of the Mountains jersey there.
And Lauren Dixon needs to be a little bit careful, because for Ali Wollaston, she would have been told, right, this is your last job of the day. Give it everything you've got. Turn yourself inside out. And momentarily, I'm sure she'll be flicking the elbow, shaking her head, and that'll be job done. But for Lauren Dixon, it's still a long way to go. And we're just coming up towards that steepest section of the climb. It is an inconsistent one, and the gap is going to be tumbling to these three leaders on the road.
As that camera just panned forward, we came past the race commissaire's car up to the front of the bunch, and I think with the increase of speed in this peloton, there's going to be no time at all until that gap tumbles. Will they get over the top of this climb? I'm not sure. Ali Wollaston is still going for it. They're on a slight plateau here, and it's going to really kick up. I think it might be kicking up now, in fact. The speed of the peloton is belying the steepness of this road.
Incredibly steep section of the race, and look at that time gap, only 32 seconds as we come back to Ali Wollaston, who is gritting her teeth. She's got Lauren Dixon behind. Where is Lorena Wiebes? We know how good she is in positioning herself. We can see Misha Bredewald is there. But is she still in this group? Yes, she is. She's in about 6th position. She's just tucked in behind the wheel of Kim LaCour. Again, just phenomenal stuff from Lorena Wiebes as Kate Courtney and Lauren Dixon now start to make their move. Look, this is becoming very, very select here. Is Lorena Wiebes going backwards? She seems to be holding her own as the job from Ali Wollaston is now done.
Lauren Dixon just gave Ali Wollaston a pat on the back as Ali Wollaston very, very quickly went backwards. Look, there are the breakaway riders. That's dropped to 30 seconds now. And as the peloton hit those really steep slopes, that's going to continue to tumble. Who is going to take the lead in the peloton now is Delixine Meermont, who's desperately trying to keep away at the head of the race. And there is Kate Courtney, our United States national champion. She is doing the work to try and split that bunch. There is a lot of damage in the bunch here.
Kate Courtney in her first ever World Tour race took herself over to Belgium to ride some kermesses to try and learn about the sport of road racing. You can see Katrin Allerud from the team of Uno X Mobility here. Lorena Wiebes is still there. You can see this power data, 415 watts for Lorena Wiebes, and she is going to do everything that she can to stay in this front group, and they are nearly at the top. Kate Courtney just taking a look over her shoulder. Lauren Dixon firmly glued to the wheel, and you can see now the road just dips down slightly, kicks up again, and we're soon going to be seeing the signal of that classification, the top of this first categorized climb. 22 seconds, the gap to our leaders as they come round this left-hand bend. It's still Kate Courtney on the front, followed by Lauren Dixon. The rider behind Lauren Dixon, Eleonora Gasparini from the team of UAE Limad. But Lorena Wiebes is still there, much to a lot of these riders' dismay, I'm sure. Again, just showing us what a special, special bike rider that she is. She is definitely not just a pure sprinter. We're being told 26.6 kilometers to go, but we know this climb tops out with 28.2, so a couple of kilometers out as we are about to hit probably this 500 meters to go sign. Yes, 500 meters to go to the OMODA QoM. A big crash in the bunch behind. Lauren Dixon has gone down. A big crash in this front group, a touch of wheels. It looks like Kim LaCour as well has been distanced.
Shirin Van Anrooy is the rider from Little Trek who made it ahead of that.
Absolute drama here in the final 500 meters of this categorized climb. You can see Delixine Meermont just looking behind her. Is Shirin Van Anrooy there? Kim LaCour is coming. So is Lorena Wiebes. So Kim LaCour there just swinging out to the right-hand side of the road. She's safe. Lorena Wiebes is also chasing just behind. Shirin Van Anrooy is on the radio, so her teammate Fleur Moores will know that she's just behind. Kim LaCour is there. So Kim LaCour is now on the wheel of the Picnic Post and L rider just behind Shirin Van Anrooy. So for the team of AG Insurance Soudal, she would have definitely communicated with them that she is safe there. Here comes Visma Lisa bike, who are dragging over a group containing Lorena Wiebes. So Lorena Wiebes in that red jersey is still here. Kim LaCourt looking just probably to move herself up a little bit. And we're going to have that line across the road soon, but Lauren Dixon is not here. Lauren Dixon is that rider who was looking for points in the Queen of the Mountains competition. So 6 points are available here on the line as Dilexine Miamont comes across the line first, ahead of Fleur Moores and Alessia Vigilia. Behind Alessia Vigilia was Shirin Van Amroy, and it looks like Josie Nelson to me, the sprinter who took third on stage 1, who's just tucked in on the wheel of Shirin Van Amroy. So that crash causing absolute carnage here, Lizzie, and for the team of FDJ United Suez, we're just going to see perhaps a replay. This is the replay of the climb. So as Dilexine Miamont comes over the line here in Hengoed to take 6 points. And this is the back of this front group. You can see Millie Cousins here on the back. This is Kate Courtney. Let's see if this is a crash. Looks like riders just moving over to the... It was Lauren Dixon. Lauren Dixon hit the wheel of Kate Courtney and then brought down multiple riders behind her. So Lauren Dixon, the British rider, was the first rider to go down. And it looks like Kate Courtney was being told to wait for her because we didn't see her in that front group, Lizzie.
That is a nightmare for FGJ United Suez and for Lauren Dixon. She wanted to hold her position in GC. She wanted to assure herself of the Queen of the Mountains jersey. Now, she didn't get any points over that climb at Hengoed. It's going to be very, very difficult for her to get back on. We've got a very fast, steep at the bottom descent down into Newchurch here. And then, you know, we haven't got that long really until we hit the next categorised climb of the day.
So there's a chase behind then, so we can see Lauren Dixon is here. Is that Misha Bredevald as well there on the left-hand side? So a few key riders that have been caught out here by this crash. Caroline Swinkles is also here. Kim LaCourt just talking into the radio. This is the front group. It has fractured though because of the crash that we saw with Lauren Dixon, who was the first rider to come down, bringing many riders down behind her. Lorena Wiebes is still here, number 21 with the red jersey. Oh, there they are though. Ava Van Act is there, bringing across Kate Courtney and Lauren Dixon. So that was a really quick chase back on. Caroline Spinkles is also there, number 11, Alice Towers, number 25, Femke Henriksen. So it wasn't Misha Bredevald, it was Femke Henriksen. Misha Bredevald just in front of her, though, that you can see from SD Works Pro Time. That's also Pfeiffer Georgie, the British rider, 121 that's made it back on. So now, Lizzie, this group has swelled, but what impact has that crash had on the riders that were, one, came down, and two, affected by that crash and having to chase back on?
Well, what a nightmare and what a recovery. They're going to have had a good chase back on, but they are really, really lucky here. They've managed to get back on before the steep part of the descent, because if they were chasing in the valley, that was going to be so much harder. They're going to have had to put a massive effort in. This is the next group back down the road. We can see all-important Letizia Borghese in the green and blue jersey in the middle of that pack. She is one of the key domestiques for Kim LaCourt, so she is going to wants to get back up the front to the front there to lead out her rider for the final categorised climb of the day.
And Lizzie, one team we haven't talked much about today is the team of Movistar. Now, they controlled a lot of yesterday's stage. They've got Liana Lippert sitting in second on GC and currently sat in second wheel here for the team of Movistar. Third wheel, sorry, just behind Aude Bianique. He's the rider just sat in second, offset from Liana Lippert, the German superstar here. So for them, another big day today, as we see, it looks Looks like Alessia Vigilia, perhaps Katrin Allerud, have been the two. Katrin Allerud it is, from the team of Uno X Mobility now on the attack. So Uno X clearly with one big objective, to keep trying to snap that elastic, but it's UAE Team Limad who are not giving up without a fight. We're coming back to the rear of this front group now as we just follow number 13, Gasparini. Fast finisher, but they also have Lauren Gillespie, who's not in this front group. And also Caroline Swinkels, who they've said they're not going to give up the fight with, 6th on general classification. This is one of our chasing groups here on the road. 82, British rider Claire Steels for the team of Movistar. Also here in this group, a few riders from the Das Hutchinson team, as we've seen attack now from Misha Bredevold. So attack now from Misha Bredevold for the team of SD Works Pro Time. Is it Consoni on her wheel? We'll just see who's following behind, but of course this is going to be a dangerous move.
That is Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig on the wheel of Misha Bredevold, and I was just about to say we've got about 8 or 9 lumpy kilometres, and if you're not 1, 2 or 3 in GC and keeping your powder dry, this is your opportunity to get up the road. If you don't think that you can outclimb the others on the final categorised climb of Cliro Hill, then you've got to try and go now. Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig second in line there, just gritting her teeth as we see the British rider Alice Towers with that pink helmet trying to make her way across. Second group on this road now, just desperately trying to make their way back.
What this also says to me though, Lizzie, is that Lorena Wiebes is obviously feeling good. She feels like she can just follow behind, and you can see her there. Look at the way that she's riding. Misha Bredevold has been given the green card to be able to attack, having started the day in 7th on GC, 42 seconds behind. Kim LaCourt is controlling things, and it's all going to come back together again.
Kim LaCourt doesn't need to push this. She's not the one that needs to gain time, it's the others. Needs to be another attack now from someone else. Come on, Human Powered Health, go for it.
Lorena Wiebes there, just with a word to Cecilia Ludwig, didn't seem happy with that. Shirin van Amroy is the next rider to move though on the left-hand side of the road. So little trek after the efforts of Fleur Moores. Now decide to go again. Caroline Swinkels is the rider who's chasing for Team UAE Lima, but she's just pulling across the whole of this front group now to Shirin van Amroy, and I think this now is going to be what we're going to see for the remainder of today's stage, Lizzie, especially into this next categorised climb that starts with 18.4 kilometres to go.
If there's a little rise in the road now, that what they need to do is just come straight round Shirin van Amroy and try and attack straight off of that. They need to try and get that gap. They're throwing punches to each other here now. They're wearing everybody down. And the final categorised climb of Cliro Hill, 2.2 kilometres and an average of 4.2. But that doesn't tell the whole story. 300 metre, 10% section right at the end.
Misha Bredevold just looking behind her as we've got another move here. Is this Femke de Vries from the team of Visma Lisa Bike. But again, not able to establish a gap, so needs to stop here, which she has done. There's no point in just dragging the whole of this group behind her. And it looked like a move from Alessia Vigilia again. They're just on the right-hand side of the road. So riders need to be so attentive here, and this is where strength in numbers comes into play. Because if you've got multiple riders from the team at the front of the peloton, it means you can jump, but not have to jump again. You can see Picnic Poster now behind have reacted to this one. It is Alessia Vigilia again on the move. Super strong rider, being able to repeat her efforts, and you can see a couple of, at least 3 Uno X Mobility riders are in this front group. So definitely cards to play there if this one comes back together. It's Picnic Poster now that are dragging this front group back to Alessia Vigilia. Are they going to sit up behind here, Lizzie?
I don't think so. I think that the teams of Liverlula Jaco, even Misha Bredevold is actually really motivated to see if she can get a move up the road. If she can get a move up the road that doesn't involve Kim LaCourt.
Looks like Alice Towers
being really attacking there. She was trying to bridge over to that other move before. Yes, she's got a little gap, and it's Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig of Canyon Schramm on her wheel once again. Uttrup Ludwig really, really motivated to get away here. She's had a tough couple of years without any results to name of. She was in the breakaway on stage 3 of this race last year, having a really good chance at the finish, but she punctured and didn't manage to make it to the finish with that group.
Now it's all back together again. Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig just carrying on with her effort, but if she takes a look around her shoulder, which she has done, she can see the whole of this group is just behind her. Audrey de Keersmacher is the rider from Picnic Post now, just struggling here on the back. She had the Queen of the Mountains jersey after the first stage. The brilliant solo attack, picking up many points on the road. 6 points left as Rhayader Marcus is now on the front, but she's just towing the whole of this group behind. She's flicked her elbow. Caroline Svinkel's not happy to go through, and Misha Bredevold also looking over her shoulder, because, Lizzie, there's just no point in just increasing the pace if everyone's just sat on your wheel behind.
I mean, she could do this if she had a rider like Shirin van Anrooy, maybe in 6th wheel. She could pick up the pace, drop it off very slightly, and Shirin van Anrooy could attack off the back of that. But look, we can see the little Trek riders. That's Ricarda Bauernfeld right at the back in that yellow little badge on the back of her shorts. Her teammates at the back of the bunch, they're not at the front. Fleur Moore's the Young Riders jersey. We can see her right in the middle of the screen here. She's done an amazing job to stay away, but she's not going to be able to attack. She's been out all day. So it's the other teammates from Little Track that really need to be up there. Ricarda Bauernfeld is right at the back here, and Shirin van Anrooy is trying to find a way through, but she just can't, and the roads narrow in. There's nowhere to go around the edge of these roads. There's only hedges.
About 500 metres until the start of our next categorised climb of today's race. And just like yesterday, Movistar have now come to the front. They've got Liana Lippert in their team, but only 9 seconds behind Lippert is Lorena Wiebes. So again, as we discussed at the start of our coverage, if Lorena Wiebes was to win today's stage and Liana Lippert not in the top 3, then Lorena Wiebes will bump herself up to 2nd on general classification ahead of Liana Lippert. So they're going to try and make things as hard as they possibly can, because Liana Lippert definitely suited to a harder pace, Lizzie, than Lorena Wiebes, and that's why they are trying to position her well into this climb. They're going to descend, and then it's going to kick straight back up.
Yeah, there's a fast descent here now down towards the village of Painsettle. Pain is the name of the game for these riders, and if they want to get rid of Lorena Wiebes, this is the last chance to do it. They're going to have to hit this climb really hard. The steepest bit is at the end of the climb, and they are going to have to absolutely whack it up there. There we go.
Clyro Hill has begun. The OMODA Queen of the Mountains has started, and Movistar are leading things out. Look how hard they're going here. They're trying to launch Liana Lippert up this climb. Kim LaCourt is on the wheel, but there's a gap. There's a big gap that has come in between our 3 leaders now. One of the Movistar team is going backwards, and it is SD Works Pro Time on the front, with Lorena Wiebes sat in 2nd place as Liana Lippert and Kim LaCourt go clear. Now these 2 riders started the day 1st and 2nd on general classification. Liana Lippert 26 seconds behind Kim LaCourt, and this is blowing to pieces here.
This is blowing to pieces indeed. Liana Lippert shouting to Kim LaCourt to come through. Normally Kim LaCourt would be motivated for this. This is where they've got to get rid of Lorena Wiebes. An amazing lead out there from Movistar team, who shattered the peloton, got a gap on the bunch heading into the bottom of this climb. 462 watts there from Kim LaCourt. I think that gap is growing, but they've got to keep pushing.
The gap is growing, but Kim LaCourt does not have to give Liana Lippert a turn, and that will play into the hands of SD Works Pro Time. who have got more riders now towards the front of the race. This is a little flatter section, and then it kicks up again in the final few hundred meters. There's a real steep section, as Lizzie mentioned, towards the top, around 300 meters at 10%. These two riders are going to profit slightly off this motorbike here. Lorena Wiebes is going to continue with this effort all the way to the top of the climb and hope that she can continue all the way into Hay-on-Wye.
Speeds are really, really high on this flat section here. Super smooth road. It's been resurfaced just for these women at the Tour of Britain. Lorena Wiebes, the only one doing the work here. Kim LaCourt might even be thinking that she can attack her in the really steep bit. There's a little bit more of this flat bit, and it's only SD Works who are working behind. Lorena Wiebes there, third rider down in that red jersey of the leader of the sprints competition. No one else is helping SD Works pull that gap back here.
SD Works now with full responsibility. Not only is Lorena Wiebes the fastest, but she's actually also sat in third on general classification, behind our two leaders of the race in Kim LaCourt and Lorena Wiebes. We believe they've got around 15 to 20 seconds. Kim LaCourt hasn't given Lorena Wiebes a turn yet, but it does look like she's going to come through here, Lizzie.
Yeah, she's finally coming through, and that's because we're hitting the really steep sections, and now we're on this steep section. There's no benefit in being behind. Now we're here. Kim LaCourt wants to help keep this away. SD Works haven't managed to bring it back, and this is the opportunity for these two riders to take this to the finish and get another really big result here. Let's pan back, and we see that it's splitting up behind. It's Picnic Post NL who are attacking out of the bunch. Lorena Wiebes is trying to follow. Can she match it on this steep climb? She's beginning to open up a bit of a gap.
Looks like it's going to come back together then. Lorena Wiebes is really digging in deep here. She's got Kim LaCourt on the wheel. As Lizzie said, a Picnic Post NL rider just in between, but it looks like it's being closed by Femke de Vries, who's got Lorena Wiebes on her wheel, Shirin van Amrooy just behind. They're going to go over this cattle grid, and we're soon going to have that line across the road to indicate the top of this climb. It tops out with 16.2 kilometers to go. Where is Lauren Dixon? We know Lauren Dixon crashed earlier. Here comes the top of the climb. So Lorena Wiebes is going to take full points, 6 points ahead of Kim LaCourt. And then we've got our 5 chasers just behind that, containing Lorena Wiebes. And there is Lauren Dixon, but she won't pick up any points there. It was only points for the top 6 riders. I believe there was 6 that crossed the line ahead of her there, as Lorena Wiebes is continuing with this effort, but Lorena Wiebes is isolated behind. So with no teammates, this is forcing Lorena Wiebes to have to chase. So she's going to commit to this one, because ultimately the quicker she can close this gap, the better. Kim LaCourt not coming through, so almost 1 against 1 here, Lizzie. Who is going to be the stronger of the two?
I saw Lorena Wiebes on the radio on that descent. She'll want to know what the gap is, because there's a gap back to the Wiebes group, and then there's another gap back to the peloton. A very, very fast descent down here. Will those leaders manage to stay away ahead of the bunch?
So we currently got 2 leaders on the road. Our race leader, Kim LaCourt, and second place rider on general classification, German rider for Movistar, Lorena Wiebes, and then a big chase behind, headed up by our red jersey wearer, Lorena Wiebes. She's wearing that on behalf of Kim LaCourt, but only 1 point separates them in that points classification, but she wants more than that. Lorena Wiebes wants her 3rd stage victory here in the Tour of Britain, and now Kim LaCourt comes through. So with these 2 riders now working together with 14.5 kilometers to go, it looks like Lorena Wiebes, though, is closing the gap down here. This is a phenomenal ride by Lorena Wiebes. Lizzie, you look gobsmacked here in the commentary box.
I am gobsmacked. I think the reason that she managed to do it, because it was a short effort, and she's got that explosive power, but really this is something else. Every day I'm questioning what she can do. She's breaking records. She is shattering our idea of what a sprinter can do, the climbs that she can get over, but nobody is helping her in that group. This is a really, really fast descent, and look, she's closing it down.
She's closing it down, Lizzie, indeed. And without any climbing left now in this race, you would say advantage for sure is with Lorena Wiebes, but if she is isolated, we're going to still get some attacks, and you can see that gap is still around 100 meters here to that second group, but the junction has been made. Lorena Wiebes is now on the wheel of the picnic post, and Rhayader, who has made it up to the back wheel of Kim LaCour.
This is a really good opportunity when the road flattens out. It's going to be about another 1.5 kilometres of descending, but when that road flattens out, I expect to see riders like Shirin van Anrooy taking their opportunity. We've got, is that Caroline Anderson from Jayco at the back there?
Yeah, but now also you can see that every single rider here in this front group is alone. There's not one team with multiple riders, so who's going to control? Obviously, Kim LaCour is our race leader, but if there was a team with 2 riders in this move, that would be a huge advantage.
I wonder, Wiebes seems to be the one that's taking control at the moment, but when they get to the flat bit, it's going to be interesting. We've got one rider who's gone off the front of the chasing peloton there. We'll try and get that. That looks like it could be an Uno X Mobility rider with the red and yellow livery, just flying down that road. But very, very shortly, they're going to come down into the village of Clyro. They're going to take a right-hand turn along the northern edge of the River Wye, and then they're only going to have 12 kilometres to go. There we go. That is Shirin van Anrooy just beginning to come into the village now. She's about to take that right-hand turn, and she is going to try and go here. Oh, is she? Oh, yes, she is. No, she's not.
We've got 2 UAE Team Limad riders chasing. Seven riders ahead of the rest then, contained in the top 3 on general classification. Kim LaCour, Liana Lipper and Lorena Wiebes, who Lizzie is happy to roll through. Is this just a case of that it's easier to be rolling through than just being that sweeper on the back here? Because really she doesn't need to be working here, knowing that she is by far the fastest sprinter. Problem here for Lauren Dixon. So it looks like Lauren Dixon has had a second crash on the road. You can see a few fans just helping her with their handlebars. Let's see what's happened here. You can just see her on the deck on the left-hand side of the road. That is really unfortunate for Lauren Dixon. You can see her right elbow there and the race numbers just to come off her jersey. And that's also going to be physically damaging as well, Lizzie, not just kind of physically and mentally, sorry, after crashing for a second time on the road today.
She's going to be so frustrated. It was really good to see her jump back up, but I was going to say it was UAE Team Limad who have missed this front group. They are having to do the work. Caroline Swinkles, of course, is their GC leader, and it's Erica Magnaldi, the Italian rider, who is really fighting to bring her back to that group, because that group is working because UAE Team Limad have missed it, because riders like Lauren Dixon have missed it. But what's Dixon doing now? Let's have a listen.
Just telling, I think, the rider from Picnic Post NL, who I think that's Audrey de Keersmacher, just what happened there.
She's just saying she just hit the corner as she came around. She doesn't look too panicked trying to get back on, actually. I was thinking that she would be trying to chase really, really hard, but maybe she's just thinking her day is over. Riders rolling through really well here. Wiebes taking her chance. She knows that she can win from any position. Look at those muscles on her arms. She's absolutely stacked. UAE having missed the move.
That is Josie Nelson. So Josie Nelson has done a fabulous job here of getting into this move, Lizzie. Really fast finisher. But yeah, Lauren Dixon, who started the day 9th on general classification, 45 seconds behind, seems to have almost given up the ghost here as she just latches herself on to this group headed up by Alessia Vigilia, and I really feel for Lauren Dixon. And now these riders, 7 riders, are riding in that chain gang formation, Lizzie, so they're going to be riding at really high consistent speeds here. So FDJ United Suez have missed out, UAE Team Limad have missed out. Lauren Dixon looks like she's in pain. she would be able to hold on to the back wheel. So I really hope she hasn't done any more damage than just the loss of skin here.
I mean, it may just be the fact that by the time she got back on her wheel, on her bike, the race was moving so fast that she knew she wasn't going to get back on. Now, Caroline Swinkles here has lost her helper in Erika Magnaldi, who put in a lot of effort to try and get her back. Caroline Swinkles is swinging her head from one side to the left with that effort that she's trying to put in to get back to this group of 7. That's going to be super hard for her. Look at the speed of these riders, the ones just in front of our screen, as they move forward in this chain gang formation. They're really, really rocketing down this road.
So just to confirm who's in this group, Lorena Wiebes is the rider in the red jersey, Shirin van Amrooy for Little Trek, Femke de Vries is the rider just rolling through for Visma Lisa Bike, Josie Nelson is here for Picnic Post-Nel, Caroline Anderson is the rider in purple, riding for Liv Alula Jaco, who started the day 4th on GC. And then we have Liana Lippert for Movistar and Kim LaCourt, who is our race leader. This is Caroline Swinkles with number 11. Unfortunately, just freewheeling here, so another rider that seems to have almost given up waiting actually for this group. So this group containing her teammate in Erika Magnaldi, but also Kate Courtney, who has got number 6 on her back. Uno X Mobility rider there as well. So these 5 riders have got that leading group in their sight. So Kate Courtney just flicked her elbow to this Uno X Mobility rider, Marta Edse. I think Caroline Swinkles has made the right decision here, Lizzie, to just wait, give herself a little bit of recovery and latch herself onto this group, which also contains Pfeiffer Georgie, the British rider. But look at the speed difference between this front group that are riding in that different formation. So unlike the group behind that are riding in that kind of team time trial formation, that one line doing probably 30 seconds on the front, versus this sort of chain gang where you're constantly rolling through.
Everyone in this front group is really motivated and working really well, and that's pretty unusual actually. Usually we see 1 or 2 riders shirking the responsibility. Caroline Swinkles just on the front of this group now. She was in between, and she would have been looking back to the group behind and looking forward and seeing that she was losing time to that group ahead and thinking, I'm just going to go back and see if these riders can help me get back to the front.
So for these riders now, they're just heading down to Glassbury. They'll then have a left-hand turn with 5.5 kilometres to go before heading straight into Hay-on-Wye, where we've got our finish of today's stage 4 of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. This Flying Dutch woman, she's going to try and make it 3 stage victories. Femke de Vries looking to move up on that general classification. This front group working incredibly well together. Some really fast finishers though, Lizzie, in this group. Even our GC riders are fast finishers in their own right. Kim LaCourt, Josie Nelson a fast finisher, but more of a sprinter. Liana Lippert also very explosive. So behind Lorena Wiebes, it's quite hard to predict who might be up there.
And they're really motivated, this group, but when they get with 3 or 2 kilometres to go, will that cohesion remain? This group is trying really, really hard. Erika Magnaldi just struggling to stay on that back wheel. She was the rider who was trying to put in the work to take Caroline Swinkles back up. Caroline Swinkles has had a rough day. She was caught behind that first crash with Lauren Dixon on the 2nd classified climb of Hengoed. She came down, had to rush to get back to this group. She also got caught yesterday, so she is not having the best Tour of Britain Women so far. She really wants to make it back to the front because she's another rider with a great turn of speed. Caroline Anderson in that purple jersey here. They're just coming over the river at Glassbury, and they're going to take a left-hand turn now with 5.5 kilometres to go.
Will Caroline Anderson try something in the last few kilometres, Lizzie? Because she's currently sat on the same time as Lorena Wiebes, 35 seconds behind race leader, Kim LaCourt. And she knows that if it comes down to a sprint, she's not going to beat Lorena Wiebes.
she could do. There's a very, very slight rise in the road. There's about 1.5 kilometres to go. These riders really need to keep this cohesion, though, because they need to keep that gap back to Caroline Swinkles, who will also be really motivated. If this group messes around and the speed drops, the second group on the road could come back and really fly straight over the top of them.
5 kilometres to go to the finish of stage 4 of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women into Hay-on-Wye. There's going to be a story written out here today on the roads here in Wales. We've got our leading group of 7 riders containing the race leader, the top 3 on general classification, and then a chasing group behind that are doing every single thing in their power to try and get themselves into a race-winning move. And it does look like it's going to happen here. Lizzie, Caroline Swinkles just looks back, but Pfeiffer Georgie now hugging that left-hand gutter. She's got her teammate ahead of her.
What we saw there was Josie Nelson from Picnic Post NL. She was the rider that decided to stop working because she knew that Pfeiffer Georgie was coming from behind. And now we see, oh, it was going to be an attack. There's just complete lack of cohesion here. As these riders get back together, expect attacks. And here goes Kate Courtney up the left-hand side of the road.
Kate Courtney straight through from that chasing group behind has decided that she wants to try and attack. She's looked over their shoulder though, and it's Lorena Wiebes that is stuck to her wheel like glue, and also to that one left-hand side of the road. So that is there's only one shoulder that needs to be looked over as to who's going to be the next to attack. I mean, UAE Team Lihmed have got 2 riders here, so you could say for the team with multiple riders, also Picnic Post NL with 2, then there would be the teams to look at to attack in the final. Lorena Wiebes definitely the fastest in this group, this very select group that we've got coming to the line now. 4 kilometres to go.
That's Erica Magnaldi who's on the front of the bunch now. She's just trying to hold a nice pace. She's trying to deter some of the attacks. She's going to be putting faith in her team leader, Caroline Swinkles. Can she beat Lorena Wiebes? I don't know who can. No one's been able to beat her this year in those sprints. So let's see, that group has swelled. Shirin van Anrooy is on the back of the group here. I would be worried about her. She'll be looking for an opportunity to make a move. If the speed slows, maybe with about 1.5 kilometres to go, maybe she will even take a flying run in from the last kilometre. She's just drinking the last bit of her bottle now and putting it back in her bottle cage. Same with Kim LaCour.
Little Trek have been very aggressive today. Fleur Moores with the longest attack of the day in that young rider's jersey, not in this front group, but her teammate is Shirin van Anrooy here, number 56. She's 1 minute and 14 seconds down on that general classification. So is she just taking a little bit of time here to recover? You can see the road kicks up slightly ahead. 3 kilometres to the finish into Hay-on-Wye. Lorena Wiebes is trying to set that pace. Actually, one rider ahead of her, I believe.
I think that's still Erica Magnaldi on the front of the bunch for UAE Team Lihmed. She's just trying to keep that pace nice and steady.
You see Caroline Swinkles just moving backwards. So does she want to try and catch this group by surprise, Lizzie? Go from behind, rush the gap?
I wondered if she might try and take the wheel of Kim LaCour,
There's another
but no.
another group just in the distance here, but I think it might just be too late for that group to come back. So Erica Magnaldi is just setting this pace on the front. But if they start to play cat and mouse, it could give that group behind an opportunity to come back. Shirin van Anrooy and Caroline Swinkles just having a little word with each other. So it's going to be in their best interest if they're trying to move up on GC, perhaps give themselves a chance to take a stage win, to work together in the last couple of kilometres, because again, bringing Lorena Wiebes to line, we know what's going to happen.
We've seen it before when 2 riders attack at the same time and go up the road together, and that is a really, really good way to try and make a surprise. It's much harder to bring up 2 riders. There they go.
They're doing it. Caroline Swinkles is the rider that's come from behind with Shirin van Anrooy on her wheel. Shirin van Anrooy knew this was going to happen, but Lorena Wiebes is wise to it. And with the explosivity that Lorena Wiebes has got, it doesn't take her much to just jump straight on the wheel. But will we get a counter?
Sharon Van Anrooy is going again on the right-hand side of the road. Lorena Wiebes was looking over her left-hand shoulder when Sharon Van Anrooy went on the right. Kate Courtney is on her wheel, and Lorena Wiebes is third in line. She is on it once again. It's going to be attack after attack until we hit the line. And now Femke de Vries goes down the left-hand side of the road with Alessia Virgilia on her wheel.
Big move here from Femke de Vries. It's Marta Edseth, the rider from Uno X Mobility, who is chasing her, but Lorena Wiebes is going straight through. She does not want a gap to become established. She wants to jump on every single thing she can straight away. Kim LaCourte glued to the wheel of Lorena Wiebes, as we've got another move here by Caroline Anderson, but she's stopped before she's even got to the front. Lorena Wiebes is closing the door with Kate Courtney on her wheel, and we're approaching that Flamme Rouge.
Lorena Wiebes is one who's got everything to lose today. She is going to have to close down every single attack. She's had attacks from left, right and centre. Who's going to go next? Because I am sure they're not going to leave it to run into the line. Look, Lorena Wiebes was just glued to that left-hand side of the road now. She just wants to make sure she can see the attacks from one side as we come into a kilometre to go.
1 kilometre to go then into Hay-on-Wye. And it is Lorena Wiebes to lose, but what a phenomenal job she's done here to be in this very, very select group of riders coming into Hay-on-Wye. Lorena Wiebes is going to lead this one out from the front. Will we have any more attacks coming into the finish? The group is going to swell. We've got a big group now that's coming back into contention, and if I was one of those riders behind, I would go straight through. An attack by Erica Magnaldi is being closed down again by Lorena Wiebes, and if there's any SD Works Pro Time riders in this group behind, they need to get straight to the front as Sharon Van Anrooy now comes through. So Sharon Van Anrooy now in the last 500 metres is attacking with Caroline Swinkels on her wheel, but Lorena Wiebes is slotted into third place. Kim LaCourte is opening up, but she's now freewheeled. Sharon Van Anrooy leading this one out. Caroline Swinkels behind. But where is Lorena Wiebes? Here she comes. Lorena Wiebes has opened up the gap. She's accelerating to the line. Lorena Wiebes is going to make it a hat-trick in this year's Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. Lorena Wiebes wins stage 4. This was not close, and it was never going to be close. Yet again, Lorena Wiebes. She does it again. What a story, and what a special rider that we are witnessing here. Another phenomenal victory from Lorena Wiebes, 3 stage wins and her 136th career victory. Wow.
What a finish into Hay-on-Wye, the town of books and where great stories are born and shared with the road, here with the world. Well, Lorena Wiebes has written the next chapter of her story today. That is double digits for her in the Tour of Britain. Her 10th win here, her 136th career win. I didn't expect it. Did she expect it? What a day.
This is the replay now into the closing couple of 100 metres. You can see Lorena Wiebes is poised and ready on the wheel of Caroline Swinkels. She's looking at where she's going to thread that needle. Kim LaCourte jumps first on the left-hand side in that green leader's jersey. You can see Llanidloes as well just behind her, but Lorena Wiebes, once she accelerates, there is no looking back and no one can come onto terms. Lorena Wiebes then crosses the line first here in Hay-on-Wye ahead of Llanidloes, and Kim LaCourte was the rider in third. 10, 6 and 4 points on the line, with Llanidloes in second. You can see here Lorena Wiebes talking to teammate Misha Bredevold, and Lorena Wiebes was isolated there in that final few kilometres, Lizzie, but again, she just blows us all away with how good she is, how versatile she is, how well she can climb, and how she can finish it off, even after having to jump on every single thing, every single attack that moved there in that final.
She knew that she was the rider who had to take responsibility, and she did. A tough day out for Misha Bredevold, not making that front group, but actually if she was there, it might have made it more difficult.
And there is the stage result. Lorena Wiebes with a hat-trick ahead of Llanidloes. Kim LaCourte in third. Kate Courtney was in fourth. Pfeiffer Georgie, Caroline Swinkels, Femke de Vries, Millie Cousins, Fleur Moores and Josie Talbot to round out your top 10.
Man in green, step to your right. Thank you.
Giving us a nice clean shot here then of our stage winner, Lorena Wiebes, alongside Misha Bredeveld, who was pretty aggressive in today's stage, especially in the back end. Misha Bredeveld, who started in 7th on GC, but actually now Lorena Wiebes is their GC rider and their stage hunter as well, having taken 3 of 4 stages.
Well, Liana Lippert started the day in 2nd on GC, and we talked about that risk of whether Lorena Wiebes could overtake her. It was only 9 seconds back to Lorena Wiebes on GC, and now she has taken 4 seconds off that gap. We just see a replay of that final K with Lorena Wiebes having to cover every single attack there.
But she's doing exactly the right thing here. Just sticking to that one side of the road, that one gutter, so that there's only one side for her to have to try and control. She's got Kate Courtney on her wheel, and she's just anticipating, constantly looking over her shoulder. She's a track rider as well, let's not forget, so she can do this. It is almost like that match sprinting style here as we came into 1 kilometre to go. Shirin Van Amroy just moving up. She'd already tried to attack. She'd had communication with Caroline Svinkels. Kim LaCourte having to close down that gap to Lorena Wiebes and Kate Courtney, who just found themselves a couple of bike lengths ahead of the rest. And this gave that group behind an opportunity to try and come back. You can see here a couple of groups on the road coming back into contention, but at that exact moment it was Erica Magnaudi with Marta Edzeth on her wheel. That didn't come to anything, and this was where the final really started. We had Shirin Van Amroy attacking again into 500 metres to go. Caroline Svinkels was the rider on her wheel, but Lorena Wiebes knows exactly what to do. She's a masterclass tactician. She got on the wheel of Caroline Svinkels. If you watch Kim LaCourte here, she was the first rider to move. So Kim LaCourte, our race leader, a very, very fast sprinter in her own right, getting out the saddle, moving to the left-hand side of the road. But when Lorena Wiebes opens up the gas, no one can come close. Liana Lippert, fighting on her wheel, managed to stay in 2nd position ahead of Kim LaCourte. And Lorena Wiebes did it again. Absolutely phenomenal stuff.
Those 6 bonus seconds were crucial for Liana Lippert. She had 9 seconds back to Lorena Wiebes in 3rd place on GC. Now that deficit has been nearly halved. It's only 5 seconds back to Wiebes now, if my maths is correct. And that really puts everything in jeopardy for that 2nd place for Lorena Wiebes tomorrow, because if Wiebes gets more than 5 bonus seconds on the line tomorrow, that'll put her into the 2nd place on GC.
So Kim LaCourte will still be leading in the general classification, of course. Liana Lippert, 24 seconds behind Kim LaCourte, and then 29 seconds behind Kim LaCourte. So yes, 5 seconds in between Liana Lippert and Lorena Wiebes on the road. Another 10 seconds down now, though, is Caroline Anderson. So because of the 10 bonus seconds that Lorena Wiebes has picked up on the stage, she's put herself significantly ahead of Caroline Anderson. Now we're going to go back to the start of today's stage. This started in Llanidloes, heading to Hay-on-Wye, Alice Wood at kilometre 0. Just flying that flag, indicating the start of the race. 138 kilometres today, 2,227 metres of elevation. Fleur Moores was the first to attack for the team of Lidl Trek. She started the day in the lead, with a lead of 1 minute and 58 seconds over Llanidloes from Picnic Post now in that young riders classification. And it was going to be a long day out for Fleur Moores. Some twists and turns, tough roads here in the UK, gritty but technical as well. Fleur Moores had a big job on her hands, but we know with such talent, the young 20-year-old from Belgium was going to give it everything that she could. Former junior European champion, she hit the first OMODA Queen of the Mountains of the day. This is Elan Valley. 5.4 kilometres at 5.1%. topping out with still 118.5 kilometres to go. Beautiful scenery here in Mid-Wales. 500 metres to go then for Fleur Moores. She can see the top just in the distance. Her team car had been up to support her, and you can see a few riders really struggling under the pace, being set by the peloton, and Fleur Moores still ahead of the rest as she went over the line in the lead. It was a first categorised climb, so 10 points there for Fleur Moores, as Lauren Dixon was helped by teammate Kate Courtney. She picked up 8 points and extended her lead. 17 points ahead virtually on the road at this stage. Team DS Jeroen Believers for the team of Little Trek. Just having a chat with Fleur Moores, but then it was AG Insurance Soudal. The dynamic in the peloton really changed, with Fleur Moores extending the gap to over 2 minutes. AG Insurance wanted that gap to come down and come down quickly. Another move here by Picnic Post NL though, but Fleur Moores still battling ahead on her own. Alessia Vigilia was the next rider to attack for Uno X Mobility. And Fleur Moores given the gap of 1 minute and 10 seconds to the peloton, and Alessia Vigilia made it over to Dilexine Miamont, who was a rider from Picnic Post NL. And you can see the pace was really increasing behind. Our solo leader became a trio on the road, so Fleur Moores, Dilexine Miamont and Alessia Vigilia. You can see Alessia Vigilia just struggling here, but they came together again, managed to share that workload. A few of the continental teams here just struggling. 19 teams in the race, 13 World Tour teams, 5 continental teams and the Great Britain national team. This is the second Queen of the Mountains up to Hengoed. This was a crash that just happened behind. It was Lauren Dixon, the British rider, to come down first, taking out quite a few riders behind, so they were going to have a chase on their hands. This is a 2.7 kilometre climb, averaging 5.2%. This was the top. So it's Dilexine Miamont coming over the top first, ahead of Fleur Moores, but Lauren Dixon had not made it back at this stage. She was leading in the Queen of the Mountains competition. That climb topped out with 28.2 kilometres to go. Our final Queen of the Mountains began, and Movistar were the team to line things up for Liane Lippert. Liane Lippert, the German star, who started the day second on general classification, had Kim LeCourt on her wheel, really committed on this final climb of the day that topped out with 16.2 kilometres to go. A couple of 100 metres to the top. Liane Lippert went over the top first, ahead of Kim LeCourt. This was a second categorised climb, so 6 points available at the top. Lauren Dixon not taking any points here. You can see behind, Lorena Wiebes was part of that chasing group, arguably in a lead of her own when it comes to sprinting, having already taken 2 stage victories. Caroline Swinkels was distanced, but with the help of Erica Magnaldi managed to get back into the front group. Coming into 500 metres to go, Shirin Van Amroy from Little Trek gave it one last effort as Kim LeCourt opened up the sprint, but as soon as Lorena Wiebes found her space, she accelerated to the line and no one could come on to terms. Liane Lippert managed to take vital bonus seconds, take second place ahead of Kim LeCourt, who was third, Kate Courtney in fourth, and Lorena Wiebes making it 10 stage victories in the Tour of Britain and 3 in this year's edition. What a fabulous day's racing here from Llanidloes to Hay-on-Wye. 138 kilometres and a hat-trick for Lorena Wiebes. A beautiful place to finish today in Hay-on-Wye. A famous market town on the Welsh-English border, the town of books, home to dozens of bookshops, literacy businesses, where stories are celebrated every day of the year. And we've had a memorable penultimate chapter, haven't we, Lizzie? As the race is nearing its conclusion, one stage to go tomorrow from Royal Leamington Spa to Royal Leamington Spa, but with only 1,300 metres of elevation, the chances are Lorena Wiebes could make it 4 out of 5 stage wins.
Well, after today, the teams know that they've really got to do something special if they want to get rid of her. She has been so strong throughout this race. She has sort of belied everything that we thought was possible of her. Can she do 4 out of 5 in this year's races? And here is the map for tomorrow.
So 123.8 kilometres on the menu for the riders tomorrow from Royal Leamington Spa back to Royal Leamington Spa. 1,386 millimetres of elevation. We've got one intermediate sprint, so that will be hotly contested, I'm sure, with every single second counting. Then 2 category 2 climbs that come back to back, Sunrising Hill, followed by Burton Dassett Hills Country Park. That final climb coming with 30 kilometres to go. And then an undulating run into Royal Leamington Spa, Lizzie. And for the riders, they'll be able to recce the finish of tomorrow, obviously finishing in the same place as it starts. And I would say unpredictable, but I'm not so sure now, watching the strength of Lorena Wiebes and how she is managing to almost control this bike race on her own.
She was next level today, Danny. She was really next level. I mean, she was really cohesive. Look, we've got the stage 4 general classification results here.
So Kim LaCour leading the general classification, 24 seconds ahead of Liana Lippert. Lorena Wiebes, 29 seconds behind, has extended her lead to Caroline Anderson, who is now in 4th place, 39 seconds behind Kim LaCour. Femke de Vries, Caroline Swinkels, Misha Bredeveld, Cecilie Tripp-Ludwig, Josie Nelson and Rihanna Marcus in the top 10.
You know what I'm wondering, Danny? I'm wondering if Lorena Wiebes is going to go on a mad one and try and go on a solo attack and try and get into first place on GC. What do you think? Do you think that's just wild speculation?
I mean, she's had, what, 136 professional victories? She can afford to risk it, can't she?
But how many of those have been solo? I would bet you 0.
I'd love to see that.
I think it's going to be tough for all of the other teams out there, but they've got to try tomorrow. I think the thing that's going to be difficult for them is that although these climbs are steep, Sunrising Hill is a kilometre at 9.2%, and Burton Dassett is 1.5 kilometres at 5.4%, but with really steep ramps in the middle. They're short enough that Lorena Wiebes can use her explosive power to get over these climbs, and there's a lot of flatter sections in the race tomorrow. There's no wind on offer, but I don't know, it's been a really attacking race, and although we've had 3 out of 4 victories from Lorena Wiebes, that doesn't tell you how exciting the racing has been, because it's been non-stop attacking. We've seen everything. There's been a lot of drama from start to finish, and in the town of Hay-on-Wye, in the town of books, someone should write a book about this bike race, because bike racing at the Tour of Britain is always so exciting. Love to race here, love to watch. And it's so good to see the riders. We're just going to see a replay of that final kilometres go through the Flamme Rouge there.
Lorena Wiebes leads the race through that 1 kilometre to go sign. Kate Courtney on her wheel and Kim LaCour wise to a couple of bike lengths that just opened up between them. Lorena Wiebes hugging that right-hand side of the road as the group is about to swell, with riders chasing back on from a few splits that happened on those categorised climbs and uncategorised climbs in the final 10 kilometres. A few little attacks coming out of that front group, but Lorena Wiebes was wise to them. This was in the final 500 metres. Shirin van Amrooy from Little Trek tried multiple times, but with Caroline Swinkels glued to her wheel and Lorena Wiebes just slotting herself nicely onto the wheel of Caroline Swinkels, managed to set herself up perfectly. Kim LaCour just on the hip of Lorena Wiebes as Lorena Wiebes out of the saddle, tries to thread the needle, finds her gap, and when she accelerates, There was absolutely no looking back whatsoever. Liana Lippert using the slipstream of Lorena Wiebes to be able to hold on for second. Kim LaCourt in third, but Lorena Wiebes making it a hat-trick. Another spectacular day here in the Lloyds Tour of Britain with women. Lizzie, what are your final thoughts ahead of our final stage tomorrow into Royal Leamington Spa?
Well, my final thoughts are that everybody is taking it to Lorena Wiebes, but what can they do? Can the teams work together? Can they put so much pressure on her that they can break her? Her team is weakened. Is she going to win that final stage into Royal Leamington Spa? I know that you're going to say yes, Danny, but I'm going to say I'm not sure, because I want to see a really attacking race again tomorrow on the roads of Royal Leamington Spa.
Can Lorena Wiebes make it 4 out of 5 stage wins here at the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women? Make sure you come back tomorrow to find out.